videotaped for community cable channels. Individuals attending this meeting and intending to speak to the board should be aware that they are being videotaped. In order to meet the requirements of the Pennsylvania Sunshine Law, it is necessary to record the names of all citizens who speak to the board during the meeting. To assure compliance with this requirement, it is essential that those planning to address the board come to the microphone and state their name and address. Members of the audience are asked to limit their questions and comments to no more than 5 minutes. This limit will permit time for all those who wish to speak to the board to do so. Whenever members of the audience exceed this time limit, the board president may ask the individual to yield the microphone to the next speaker, and this is in reference to Board Policy 8344.2. So at this time, ladies and gentlemen, if we could, Dr. Cotter, would you pledge allegiance? Lead us in a pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming this evening. I know you probably had to grapple with some decisions, whether to go to middle school, back to school night, or high school programs, or elementary programs, or to be here. For those of you here tonight, we thank you for choosing us. Dr. Bose.
Thank you, Madam President, and board members, staff, and guests. Our primary purpose tonight is to make a presentation to our Board of School Directors about what we believe would be an appropriate improvement in addition to the technology available at North Penn High School. While we recognize the high school has computer labs, uses technology in classes as varied as art and industrial technology, the old industrial arts, we also recognize that perhaps the hub of any large high school is its library or its instructional materials center. And we believe we can provide a greater access to the technology that young people about to leave high school or to prepare to leave high school for whatever plans their post-high school goals might bring their way ought to be exposed to a sufficient amount of technology that equips them with a fundamental working knowledge of how technology is first and foremost used, and that is to increase their personal use of information, to learn how to acquire information, how to use information, and how to dispose of information in such a way as that it's healthy, useful, and serves their long-term interest as they grow and develop into adults. And so I'm pleased that colleagues from the high school are here to make a presentation about what they believe might serve that purpose, that general goal and objective that we should all have for young people under our care. And I'll ask Ken Weir, who has a responsibility, as most of you might recall, for shepherding our technology initiative, to introduce them as well as the program. Mr. Weir.
Thank you, Dr. Bose. Before the introductions, I'd like to thank the board members for their willingness to meet with us tonight on this topic. I think it's a real sign of your interest and your understanding of the need for public discussion of this topic that you were willing to schedule a special meeting for this purpose. And on behalf of the high school staff and the high school students and all those who will come in the year to the high school in the years that follow, I want to thank the board and the administrators present and those in the public in the audience for being here tonight as we begin to talk about some of the needs that we believe are appropriate for the high school library, sometimes called the Instructional Materials Center or the IMC. For the benefit of the television audience, I'll just review the agenda in summary as I introduce the speakers. Dr. Cotter is responsible for some introductory remarks tonight. Our high school principal, Dr. Vincent Cotter. Department Chair for the Librarians of the School District, Paulette Brocker-Watton, is going to talk with us tonight, representing her global interest for libraries. As I said, she's the department chair. She's stationed in the high school as a librarian in the high school. She also serves as a chair for all of the 17 libraries in our 17 schools. Addie Scalise, a librarian in the high school, will speak to us about the hardware that we have, what we have now, and review the present status of the equipment we have in the high school. Our third high school librarian is Shirley Leclerc, who will talk with us about software issues. Following then, Paulette Brocker-Watton will discuss some benefits to the students from her perception, the highlights of student benefits. Dr. Cotter will make some summary remarks regarding the presentation made by the 3 librarians. And then our Manager of Technology, Lou Nyman, will discuss some projected costs for this library improvement program. Those in the audience and those at the table have the list of projected costs as well as a floor plan and some other materials in their packet, and there will be reference to those materials throughout the evening. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Cotter and librarians, and let's begin.
Thank you for the opportunity to discuss the status of technology in the library at North Penn High School. Tonight, the high school librarians will describe the existing equipment and its capability, along with the issues created by the variables of increasing enrollment, the changing specifications of updated software, and a society that strongly defines a component of computer literacy as the ability to effectively research and locate information by utilizing a variety of databases. This evening, our librarians will illustrate that, number 1, the existing computer equipment cannot run the new versions of updated software databases, thereby relegating our students to old information and research. 2, the existing equipment runs at a very slow rate, reducing the efficiency at which research takes place. 3, the current number of computers severely limits research time in the library. 4, the current method of researching at North Penn High School inefficiently distributes materials to one student at a time. And 5, if the current equipment breaks, much of it cannot be repaired by current industry standards. I'd like to now introduce Paulette Brocker-Watton.
I think a lot of our speech is going to be repeated. But tonight we're here to discuss the technology in the high school library. But first I'd like to talk about libraries and information just for a few minutes. Libraries have certainly changed in the last few years. They're no longer about shelving.
Pull the mic closer.
Microphone.
Paul. Thank you.
Sorry.
They're no longer about shelving or stamping books anymore. They're about a lot more. For instance, if you walk into any library in North Penn, you will find something missing, the card catalog. It may be there, but it is totally different form. Many libraries have the old card catalog, and it's there, but it's not up to date. Everything is on the computer, and it makes searching much easier from elementary level to secondary. An encyclopedia, 25 or more volumes, can fit on a CD. 150 magazines for the past 10 years can fit on a CD. We take a lot of storage space storing up a lot of things that we have in the library. A goal of libraries has always been to provide information. This has not changed, but what has changed is the way the information is accessed and stored and just the sheer volume of information that is out there and available. Everyone wants their child to have an advantage in life and in school. And in a rapidly computer-dependent world, knowing how to access information is a distinct advantage. No one can argue that the ability to read is important to succeed in life, and in the future, the ability to use a computer and be able to find the information that is needed will also be necessary to succeed. We have a very basic presentation, which we've divided into 3 parts. Addie will describe what we now have in the area of hardware. Shirley Leclerc will talk about the software that we would like to have for the students. And then I will once again talk about the benefits of technology for the library. Addie.
Okay. My purpose this evening is to give you an idea of the current situation at the North Penn High School IMC. First of all, class visits to the IMC for research begin with the classroom teacher jointly planning a lesson with a librarian. Together, they discuss the teacher's goals and expected outcomes for the students. Then, at the scheduled research time, the librarian introduces the class to materials they will need and teaches the skills that they will use in their research. After the introductory lesson, the students begin their research. and much of what they do today is accomplished using a computer. Now, the high school IMC has a computer network of 26 workstations, which are connected to a file server and several CD-ROM drives. The network file server is operating at a speed of 33 megahertz, while the industry standard is now 200 megahertz, with 300 megahertz machines now on the market. Our network CD-ROM drives are double and quadruple speed, while many homes and offices now have 16-speed drives. The workstations themselves vary in memory, some having as little as 1 meg of RAM. All the workstations operate at a speed of 25 or 33 megahertz. This past June, we had to remove 3 stations from the network because they could no longer run the programs that we use. And currently, 3 additional stations are out of order, waiting for parts that we can't obtain because the machines are considered old. The parts have to be rebuilt, and we're waiting 6 to 8 weeks to have that done. All of these conditions create a very slow, inadequate network. The programs that the students use include, first of all, an online catalog for locating books and AV materials in the IMC. We have an online version of the World Book Encyclopedia, a magazine index, which would be the equivalent to the Reader's Guide to Periodical Literature that we used to have when we were in school. There's a newspaper index, which provides citations only, leading the students to newspaper articles on microfiche. We have Access PA, and that provides a catalog to materials in libraries throughout the state. And we have ERIC, which is an index to materials in education. Except for the encyclopedia, each of these programs provides a citation only. That means that the student has to jot down the call number of a book and then go get it on the shelf, or they have to take down the issue and page numbers of a magazine article and then go actually get the magazine. There's only a reference to the article. They don't get the actual article from the computer database. Now, because of the way the library is laid out, we can schedule up to 3 classes in the IMC in a single period. At the same time, we also accept students from study hall and lunch periods while we're teaching those classes. That means that many times there are over 100 students in the IMC at once, all of them with research needs. When the library has so many students, it becomes necessary for them to share the computers or to spend a great deal of time waiting for their turn. When we're crowded, we even ask our secretaries to move away from their workstations so that they can accommodate the students and let them use their stations to do their searches. Of course, when we are the busiest, the network runs the slowest because of all the demands being made on it. As I mentioned to you earlier, each of the programs on our network requires the student to go somewhere else in the IMC to retrieve the information that they want. So when an entire class is concentrating on one type of information, such as from magazines or from newspapers, we run into problems. We allow students to take out up to 5 magazines at a time. When they have found the citations on the magazine program, they have to go then to our periodical room to get the magazines, and often they're waiting in line while the magazines are retrieved for the students before them. Often, after they've waited in line for several minutes, they find out that the magazines they wanted have already been taken out by somebody else, and they can't use them. So they have to go back to square one and start all over again, look for some more citations, and go back to the periodical room to see if they can get the magazines. Now remember, we're working with 42-minute periods here. So by the time the instruction occurs, the students go to the computers to find the citations. They go to the magazine room to get the magazines. They possibly get the magazines. The 42 minutes is up, and they haven't even had a chance to read the article or interact with the information in any way. With the situation as it is now, there's so much wasted time. They wait their turns at the computers, they wait in line for the materials, and they're frustrated because they don't get what they need. The solutions that we'll be talking about tonight, proposing tonight, will alleviate some of these problems.
Good evening. I am going to discuss with you the software that we have and software that we need for our students. We are requesting 60 multimedia workstations that will support text, sound, animations, graphics, and video. We need this number to accommodate 2 classes at one time. We have 2 or more classes 50% of the time in the IMC. We also need a CD-ROM tower with multiple drives to accommodate the software. CD-ROM software that is networkable will allow students to access information at a workstation and, if necessary, to print that information. These workstations can access the same programs at the same time so that all students can be accessing, for example, the same article out of a World Book magazine rather than just the student that's holding that particular volume. We also need programs that will allow students to do word processing. We currently have WordPerfect 5.1 on our network. We need a program that is compatible and accessible throughout the school so that individual students may come into the IMC to work on business assignments during their study halls, after school, or during our evening hours. Using these programs, students can create multimedia projects using the library resources. We also need high-speed printers. Currently, we have one dot matrix printer. Students may not print since the encyclopedia information available on the computers is also available in a text form. And when they're using the magazine index, it's not necessary to print the entire citation. The speed of this dot matrix printer is so slow that students would be backed up for long periods of time. The specific software that we need for students is a multimedia encyclopedia. Our text-only version will not be available within 1 year because it is being produced in a Windows-only format. The multimedia version will allow students to see and hear information. This variety of options will fit different learning styles and different capabilities of our students. A full-text magazine database is needed. Currently, we receive donations of some weekly news magazines so we can have additional copies available. In addition, we order second copies of some magazines and microfiche copies of others due to the high usage. The wear and tear on our magazine collection is great. If we have these full-text magazines available on the network, students can retrieve most articles without getting up from the terminal. We would save valuable storage space, and with the proper printers, students would be able to print the articles. We also are asking for a newspaper index. Currently, Newsbank is the only comprehensive newspaper index we have. It has high student usage and is utilized by most of our by most of our subject areas. Students must write down, currently, they have to write down the category, the card number, and the coordinates to get to the article. Then they must go to the periodical room to retrieve the microfiche and go to one of 5 microfiche readers in the IMC to read the article. They may get these articles copied at a cost of 25 cents. With Newsbank Full Text, students would again have the article right there on the screen to read. An Atlas program. World Cultures and Business use our Atlas program extensively. Because we are unable to support a newer Windows version, the old version had to be removed due to it being out of date and invalidity. The type of Atlas program we are requesting will allow students to see political, physical, and economic information in one location. It also has sound so that students may hear the national anthems for any country and they can make country comparisons. Our Education Index is used by students researching current trends in education for debate, AP History, or some of the gifted programs. These journals and documents are then retrieved for the students' use. Access Pennsylvania is a statewide project which North Penn has been involved with for many years. It allows students to search entire databases for books and journals held throughout the state by elementary, middle, and high schools, public libraries, private schools, and also all of the state universities. The last thing that we need is Disclet. This will be an invaluable tool for students doing papers for English. It contains criticisms, biographical information, and an analysis of 593 British, world, and American authors. Students will be able to access the same author simultaneously rather than one author at a time. A problem that we have had is that we just don't have enough materials for an entire group that is doing research. This particular software would eliminate that problem.
Okay. In any school, the people who must benefit from any decision that we make are the students. And with technology, I consider this a benefit, but in elementary school, kids love technology. They can sit down at that computer and they can get lost, and it just can encourage more and more learning. But technology in the high school, is going to allow the students to find information faster. They will also find more information, and it eliminates standing in line like we talked about with the magazines and finding out that they have to begin their search process all over again. Everyone on a network computer setup like we're asking for has access to a product, not just one person at a time, to a set of encyclopedias or a particular volume in that set. And it also gives students the opportunity to gain skills that they will need in a world that is definitely becoming computer dependent. And as Shirley mentioned, it gives a variety of searching options that can fit different learning styles. Some people might go into an encyclopedia or into a text and they will browse the subject by looking at a list of topics. Others will focus and use their keywords and their phrases, and some will go on a picture tour and click on a chart and click on a picture and click on the caption and watch the movement. It's similar to when you buy a bicycle and you try to put it together. Some people can look at those parts laid out on the floor and think, I know how to do that, and they can put it together in an instant. Others need to go step by step by step and read those directions. Others can look at a picture and they know what to do. That's what a computer technology program, and with some of the programs that are out there, that can help students. Each student learns differently, and that will give them a different, let's try to start this all over again. We'll give a variety of searching options. And it can be used by all students, no matter what their capabilities, because technology is a great equalizer tool for every child. One goal, our goal, is to prepare our students for the world out there. And a first step into technology can do a lot to meet that goal.
Thanks. As principal, I've challenged our students to reach for success, to set high goals and standards for themselves. At the same time, I've challenged the faculty to create a school of the future. While the challenge to both students and faculty at times seems ambitious, it is honestly very simple. We all want the finest and most challenging education for our students. We want our students to be competitive with any student in any school district. We want all our children to succeed. The updating of our library with the requested technology will enable our students to reach their goals. It will give them the tools to succeed and be competitive. It will enable our students to become researchers and interactive learners prepared to meet the challenges of the 21st century. We believe that updating the technology in the library simply puts students first. We, the administration, teachers, students, and parents of North Penn High School are willing to work with any group, any consultant, any organization to bring this project to fruition.
Thank you very much. Lou, would you walk us through the cost sheet, which is the last sheet in the packet, please?
I'm presenting what everyone should be aware of. These are estimates. They're reasonable estimates. They're not rounded so high that it gives us a lot of buffer space. These are reasonable estimates that you can work from. It was requested that we put 56 student workstations into the library and 4 workstations for staff in the library. So that's where the 60 workstations come from. And we estimated it about $2,500 a piece for a total of $150,000. There were 7 laser printers, estimated around $2,000, $14,000. There was 1 server at $18,000. That server would be a very significant item. It'll have 96 meg of RAM. It'll have 5 4.3 gigabyte disk drives, and it'll have a hot swappable drive as well. And it will run Microsoft's NT operating system. It will have an external storage cabinet with 7 additional 4.3 gig drives. That's due to the heavy storage usage you heard earlier about the different things that the kids will be searching for. And additionally, we will have a networked CD-ROM tower, 14 16-speed CDs, which means an awful lot of kids can get at CDs at the same time. It will require 3 communication hubs at $1,000 a piece for $3,000. Furniture will also be necessary for all this equipment. We don't have appropriate furniture today in the libraries. And we estimated that $300 per workstation to $16,800. And we selected software Windows 95, Office Pro 97, and the NT client licenses This is what's being standardized in the business labs today. The newest software in the business labs is Office 97 and Windows 95. So we standardized on that in the library as well. And then we put in some money for additional software licenses that the librarians have been talking about. That comes with a subtotal of $253,000. Then the last piece, which Art and his crew will be helping us out with, and it does save us some money. Art has agreed to do the electrical and data service upgrades for us in the IMC at a price of $35,000 for a total of $288,000. It should be noted in this proposal that there are no training costs for staff, and there is no internet service provided at this figure. And I think that's pretty much sums it up.
Thank you, Lou. I think at this point we should, Madam President, if you will, entertain questions of our guests by board members. So we're...
Okay, before we, thank you, Mr. Weir. Before we go any further, we need somebody to address the facility, the layout. You provided a floor plan, but nobody addressed trying to imagine where those stations are going to be.
Who's going to do
I didn't know if that was Art, I didn't know who that was going to be.
He wants to the floor plan, so he wants to talk
I
about
know, I'm looking for it.
Do we have a current?
In the beginning.
Oh, okay.
No, that's the current or the projected?
That's the current post. The floor plan and the space is indicated.
This floor plan in your packet is drawn to scale. It shows the present location of the stacks or the shelves, if you will. It shows the secretarial stations as they are now. And is it Addie that's going to walk us through this? Who's
Oh,
going to
okay,
do this?
I can do that, okay.
And also, as you're going through, tell us if there's stations where there was something else before, then
Okay.
what's missing.
May I
Okay.
suggest that you would begin at the entrance to the right and the left with the circular stand-up stations?
Okay, so if
where
you're
the
look-
card catalogs used to be?
Right, okay. If you're looking at the bottom of the page where it says Instructional Materials Center, that would be about where the entrance to the IMC is, okay, so you can picture this. As you walk in the door, you'll see that there are offices actually right there, right above those words, Instructional Materials Centers, okay? And they would be the stations that our secretaries would have, except for one of them in the right-hand office there. That is also a student station. Now, remember that I said that any time that we're crowded, we do ask the secretaries to leave their stations, and so students can use these at any time. As you walk in the door, you have two circular areas. Our card catalogs used to be there. They have been removed from the IMC because they were no longer being used. They were empty drawers. We would like to put stand-up round tables there where we would have 5 on each side. There would be 10 computers right there. Very often we have students who want to come running in, oh, I just need a book really quick, or I just need a magazine, and they just want to do something real quick and go on their way. And so these would be very convenient for those. And of course, they would still be accessible to classes that could use them. The one that's in the square there in the center, that is the computer at the circulation desk. That's the one that's used for checking in and checking out materials. Okay, as you go down the steps, you'll see that there are two computers there, one on either side. They would be, those rectangles there are the librarian's desks. That would be Shirley's desk and my desk. There are computers, we would like to have a computer sitting next to those. They are also for student use. I mean, it's not like we get much chance to even sit at those and do any cataloging or anything. So they essentially are for student use. They would be nice for us to have them when we do have that opportunity to do some cataloging. As you walk back further a little bit, you'll see on either side, the left and the right, there are 4 computers and a printer. Those spaces right now are held by bookshelves. We would be removing one low stack on either side of bookshelves and be putting computers in those spaces. As you walk to the center of the library, we have, I think that's 16 there, with a printer. We currently have 1 row of computers there, and then another sort of T-shape there. We decided that we could put 4 across, which is what I think we have 3 across on either side. I can't remember now. So this is really just a little bit wider than what we already have. And they would be back to back. There would be 1 row and then another row facing that row. So we're putting 2 rows there.
Ms. Scalise, if I can back
Yeah.
up a little bit. Behind the librarians' stations, there's 2 rows of computers and a printer. You're saying the bookshelves are there now?
There are bookshelves there now.
And on the left-hand side where we have 4 computers and a printer, there's also bookshelves there now?
Yes, that is a bookshelf. That would
And
be
there's also
removed.
bookshelves in the back section where you want to put more computers and a printer?
No, these are the only 2
That's open
bookshelves.
space.
Only
They-
the 2 fours.
Only the 2 fours are the only bookshelves that we would be removing.
Okay, so the 2 big sections are not bookshelves in the middle?
That's
No.
correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, okay, so that one in the very center of the library, currently computers in a T shape there. Now we're talking about putting them table back to backs, 4 one way and 4 facing the other way. As you go back to the ones in the rear of the library, there are currently 1 row of computers there, and again, we're talking about putting them back to back. What would be removed from that section are carrels that are sitting there now and that are rarely used.
Old study carrels.
Study carrels. And so, of course, they are just furniture that could be moved out of the way. And they are really, what we did add to make up for the shelving that we were taking out, if you look at the shelving on the back row, there are actually 2 bookshelves that are added coming out from that wall. There are currently 3 shelves coming out from that wall. We've added 2 more, so you see 5 shelves coming out from that wall.
Do I recall correctly, I don't know who has the measurements in mind, do I recall correctly that the workstations are approximately 36 wide and 30 deep, 36 inches
30 by
wide,
36.
Yes,
30
according
inches
to
deep?
Mr. Bateman, who did the
Yes.
plotting, he
And they
said that
are-
that's what he
and
allowed.
I repeat, this is drawn to scale.
C's and P's, computers, printers, but then you
Yes.
have PTR.
I guess that they put
Is
that
that
in as
printer
a
also?
printer, yes, yeah, they must have done that. Oh, yeah, up there, yeah, they called that printer, yeah. Okay. I think different students did that.
And what computers we have currently are located where?
Okay, and currently, if you see this last row in the back, there is 1 row there across the back. Now we're going to put 2 there. And the row in the middle of the library is actually a T shape. There are 4 and 4 across, and then 4 in the center. And they're there. There are some single computers. There are 2 single computers over on the right-hand side where I have the row of 4. Sitting in front of those, there's 1 at either end there. There is 1 at the circulation desk, and the ones in the offices are the same.
Help us understand, if you can, please, or if you will, please. You said a student rushes into the library and comes to one of these 5 or 10 stand-up stations and is in a hurry to get a book or a magazine. How does the student enter the system? How does the student sign in or access? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. We have right now we're using a Novell network, which has security devices on it. We have a menu system. Actually, the computers are always logged on for the students. But in these network systems, you need to have certain rights. And we have a generic set of rights for the students. Any student, any patron can access certain programs simply because we have given them the rights to use those. We can also lock them out of certain programs by not allowing them to have the rights in those programs. And so we have the menu set up with all the programs the students are allowed to use. They walk into the library, the menu's on the screen, they press a button, they select A, B, C, or D, whichever program they wish to use, and it's already set up for them. When they exit the program that they're using, it comes right back to the menu. So they never have a chance to get into DOS or to Windows or anything else that might be sitting behind all of this information.
Do they have to
It always
identify
comes back to the
themselves?
menu. Excuse me?
Do they have to identify themselves?
No, they don't. We have a generic sign-in. They're either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, whatever. That's how way we have set it up.
Alrighty. Is there anything else in the
Questions of
presentation?
our guests?
Okay. Board questions to the left, Mr. Mosey.
Thank you, Madam President. You mentioned that you have as many as 3 classes at once in the, how many students are in a class?
Well, that varies depending on the class. Anywhere from 17 to 30 students in a class. Depends on what it is. We had some special ed classes today that were a little smaller, right? And then we had some that were large. 28, 29. We had 29 in that one class, yeah.
I was a little concerned about the fact that you seem to be a bit concerned with the fact that students had to look up a particular book or periodical on a computer, and then they had to go find it. I always thought that was part of a library to look for books and use books.
Okay, well, it's not so much that they have to go find it, it's that they don't find it when they get there. It's a lot of wasted time because they get there and it's already been taken out.
We're
It's
talking
already,
about
yeah.
magazines,
Okay,
right?
magazines, yeah.
You let
Books, yeah,
periodicals-
books
you let
they're going.
periodicals go out?
Yes.
Yes. The books, they will always have to go to the shelves to get them. There's no other way to
Yeah,
get them. But
okay.
the magazines, we're running into that
I
problem.
just find that interesting because most libraries don't let periodicals go out. You can make copies, but because they are one of a kind, they don't usually let them take, for example, Time magazine or something like that, since it's a weekly issue or whatever, and they only subscribe to a certain number of magazines, and based on your student population, you would have difficulty. I can see where you have a shortage of that.
Do I understand
Yes, we
that
do.
you cannot take out the current issue, but you can take
Correct.
out older issues?
Right, yes.
You
this-
can never take out the current issue of the magazine.
Correct.
Only former issues.
Right.
How
That is
long
correct.
do you, I don't know how to even word this, shelf life, how long do you keep periodicals? A year,
5 to
2
7 years, depending
5
on
to 7 years?
on the periodical.
And newspapers?
We don't keep back issues of the current,
You
of
put them on microfiche or microfilm?
microfiche or film, yes.
Do we have any copy machines in the IMC now?
2.
Two? Is everything on CD-ROMs now? You mentioned World Book.
Oh, yes.
Everything but our catalog is hard drive based. It is not CD-ROM.
I got a feeling that you were saying that part of the problem is because that the student is using a particular computer and another student, you have a shortage of computers. If you're going to put a lot of information, encyclopedias and World Book and so forth on a computer, and a student can now sit in front of that computer instead of getting the book and reading it, I don't know if you're going to have enough computers to handle that problem.
Well, we are
I
talking
mean,
about
if you have someone sitting at a workstation, he's reading something out of a World Book or something, and the other students are doing the same thing, I don't know how buying more computers is going to speed it up.
Well, I used the World Book as an example to illustrate that 56 to 60 students can access the same piece of information. Many students just use the encyclopedia at the high school to gather quick information. They
understand
actually
that.
don't sit there
Right.
and read the entire article.
Right.
So they're just gathering quick information and getting off of that.
The other opportunity is they could print that as well. They don't have to sit there and read it at their workstation. They could print it and take it.
Well, that's what I would think, that it wasn't presented that way. It was presented that they'd be able to, pick up this certain information off the computer and just sit there and monopolize the computer. I would think that would be the way to do it. If you come across something on the computer that you're looking for your research, to, print it and get off the computer and let someone else use it. Because I don't care where you go. If you go to the Northeast Regional Library in Philadelphia, it's one of the largest, and it's all computerized. I know when I was in college, hundreds of people used that thing. I mean, it was always packed, even on Sundays. And if you have someone sitting in front of a workstation monopolizing it, you're never going to eliminate that process.
We find that our students are very flexible, and I think they're very reasonable. If we're slow at the time and a student wants to sit in front of the computer,
can understand that.
they just go ahead and do it, and we don't, we allow them to do that. However, if we say to them, this is really crowded today, you can go over there and get the World Book Encyclopedia in the book form. Would you please do that, instead of sitting here? They do that for us. They're very, very reasonable.
I know that we have to upgrade. I don't have a problem with technology. My biggest problem is that I don't want to get so sophisticated with technology that the students don't actually get the books and read the books and do the research. I know the computers are getting so sophisticated today that it'd be very easy for someone to perhaps do a term paper right off a computer in about a half an hour without even really putting any work or research into it. And that's a concern I have.
That's an important point, but
You and I have talked about this
I think when you do
before.
research, and if it's sophisticated research, and most cases, you'll have teachers, and I'm sure you're aware, that will say, I want so many texts, I want so many periodicals, that they want to balance in terms of the reports. So I think you're going to get a variety in terms of balance. And you have students, I understand your concern, where they will no longer use the primary source per se.
Exactly.
The actual novel or book or whatever text versus just using periodicals. But I think in most cases, in the research papers that are expected, that they demand the balance of materials. I mean, I don't think anybody would say just go to 50 periodicals and base your research on that. But there's a variety of sources that people will use.
Well, I think also if it's a true educational process, you don't just have one source if you're doing some research. I know when I was in school, it was quite a few years ago, but I know when I was in school, we were encouraged to use not just textbooks, but periodicals and newspapers and everything we could to support our papers. You mentioned the fact that, are we going to be increasing the number of periodicals we subscribe to, or the number of newspapers, or it's just that we need more ROMs and we need more computers to put this information on so that more students have access? Is that what we're talking about, basically?
Well, by having a full-text magazine database, there will be periodicals on there that, yes, we do not currently subscribe to.
Okay.
It will also allow us to possibly back out some of those second copies that we order, so that, yes, we will have more available to us.
Okay. Now, this will all be on ROMs, so we'll be purchasing the ROMs from a source, is that correct?
We currently purchase magazine article summaries from EBSCO, and that is the same company that produces magazine article summaries.
Okay. All right. So basically then, what we're trying to do is put all the same basic information on all of these workstations so that more students have access to it, rather than one computer having certain periodicals, another one having book catalogs and so forth, or card catalogs. Everything will be on the same computer. We'll have a consistent program then throughout the whole IMC. Okay. I guess the next question, I thank you. I guess the next question would be to you, Mr. Nyman, in your cost figures. There's a program I was reading about in the one of our periodicals that we as board members get, and the government passed this subsidy, or they have this $253 million or $1 billion or something that I guess it's called E-program. I can't recall the name. It had a name for it.
Communications Act?
And it was going to be based on IMCs and a number of students that we have in our lunch programs and so forth.
That's the FCC
Communications.
Yes.
Yeah,
I had asked at the previous meeting, when we scheduled this meeting for discussing technology at the IMC, about being a little creative in our financing. And has anyone looked into that, or to see, what monies we can get? Because I understand the applications are going to be available this month or next month, and they're talking about implementing this in January.
Yeah, we haven't done that per se today. I mean, what I presented is what I would think this would cost to do.
Right.
It has nothing to do where we're getting that money from.
Okay. But I think that's one of the things we should look at, because if the money's going to be there and it's going to be based on school lunch programs, and we're entitled to it, I think rather than just taxing for it or floating a bond, that we ought to be a little more creative in our financing.
I don't think anyone disagrees with that.
Okay. That's all I have at this time, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Measures. Ms. Krieger.
We're just using this time to ask questions, right?
Absolutely.
We're gonna
There
come
is
back-
no action tonight.
No, but are we going to have a chance to maybe make some final thoughts ourselves?
Oh, absolutely.
Can we hear from the...
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. I don't know who to ask this first question of. Was our next? Can you read to us? I think I was writing still about Access PA. Did somebody give us a description of what the ERIC service is? Because I didn't pick I didn't write anything down for it, so could somebody just rehash it?
Okay.
It's here.
That's
It's here.
an-
It's in the packet.
Okay, it's an education index. It's an index
Okay.
to journals and books written about education,
Okay.
specifically for education.
Okay. How does that tie in with the staff development specifically?
Oh, it's used heavily for that.
It is.
But it's also used by the students, so it does
Okay.
appear on the student menu.
Now, is this something that we have currently?
Yes.
Okay, and what you're asking for is to just increase that availability?
I don't think that we've asked for any increase, and we want to continue to have it. I think that's it. You know, and a lot of these programs over the last few years, they used to appear on one CD-ROM, as Paulette showed you in a CD-ROM. Now they are accumulating so much information that they're going to 2, 3, 4 CD-ROMs each, which means that we need more CD-ROM drives, or we can't run the entire program. We can only run parts of the program then.
So how many CD-ROMs exactly is it that you need then in order to be able to provide and support the staff development?
Okay,
Because it's
there are,
what's-
currently, that program, I believe, takes 2 CD-ROM drives. That one program takes 2 CD-ROM drives, yes.
Okay. I guess what I'm a little confused about is the doomsday outcome that says,
That was just a term that we used. If we don't get these things, then this is what's going to happen down the road. Okay, if we're running out of space, machines are going down on us. The companies are changing the programs. This is what's going to happen if we don't get it. So what does it say there? It says if we don't upgrade, we're not going to be able to provide this for our staff development, because we would have to use the CD-ROMs for other things. We'd have to make choices there. We'd
okay,
have to
so
say
you need
something
2
has to go.
extra CD-ROMs in order to run that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we probably would need additional, yes, to continue to run it, yes.
To continue to run it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. The number of students, you said on a real busy day, you can see up to 100 students at a time in the library.
At least, I'd say 8th period today, we probably had more than that, yeah.
Okay. My question, I guess, would be, with only 56 stations, what would the remaining 44 students be doing while the 56 are sitting at a new terminal, which not only allows them no longer to have to write down information and get out and go look for it themselves, which would have taken them away from a station earlier, but are now bringing up full magazine articles to read, or newspaper articles to read, or multimedia encyclopedia things, which will allow them to do the things that you do. I mean, I would think that at 100, on a real busy day like that, I think we're going to have some unlucky students not able to still access the kinds of things and even better things that are being asked for. So I guess my question is it really reality to think that you're going to have 100 students in there at a time?
I think I know where you're going, and certainly I think it's a valid concern, that if we have 3 classes that are being instructed, and certainly there are a number of students just coming in from other places,
Right.
Theoretically it could happen during the lunch period. There would be a number that may not be able to access the computer, but even with the number of computers we're talking about, which is a fair number here, 56 computers, but we're looking and projecting down the road also with the new addition and the capability of being able to research into our library from the 2 labs. If we wire effectively from our IMC now into the new addition and to the 2 labs that are planned, you may not even have to go directly to the IMC. You could go to those lab stations in the new addition, which may be 28 station lab areas, and sit in the new addition and access the same information without even going to the IMC.
That's not a maybe.
That you could do today with
That's our intent.
That's our intent.
That's our intent.
That is the absolute intent.
Lou, how many labs do we have at the current time?
At the high school, 7 at the high school if you count the art lab, which has 7 machines in it.
Well, you gotta pull that over.
I'm
We're having
sorry.
trouble with that.
Total number of stations, and are there different number of stations in each
I don't
lab?
have that with us. If you go back
The
to
newest lab, the newest Link to Learn lab has 28
28.
stations. The smallest lab's in the art department with 7.
and they run from that 7, the average I say is in the 20s. But
Is
that,
it the 20?
yeah, is in the 20 workstations.
25, let's say.
I'd say 20 to 25. That information is in the March presentation that we gave you, if you want to look that up, back in March. All that information's
I
available.
have that here.
Off the top of my head, I don't want to quote figures and be incorrect.
I'd like to talk about the maintenance of the current system and how any improvements to that current system will relate into future maintenance. It's my understanding that now we have some kind of an agreement through the IU for maintenance of those machines, and that it's through that servicing, we have found that it's getting harder to get replacement parts and
We use
things like that.
We have a contract like that, but we have a variety of sources that we use to maintain the equipment due to its age and repair statuses. I mean, we try to find the equipment to replace stuff wherever we can find it. So it's a variety of sources that we go to find and get repairs done. So the IU is one place that we use, as well as 2 outside sources as well.
No, but it's my understanding we have some kind of an agreement where they come out on a regular basis
On
to
Fridays.
service the equipment that's there.
On Fridays.
On Fridays they come.
You have to call them. If you have a machine down, you have to pick up the phone, call them, and let them know there's a machine in the library. If it's Monday, it waits till Friday before it gets looked at.
I think we should explain that there are certain kinds of service calls they make for us and certain other kinds that they do not
They-
make for us.
That's
And that we have many needs each day
Yeah.
that we don't call the IU about. So there's.
Yeah, that's why I'm alluding that we also get repairs from other service providers outside of the IU, so that we can get stuff repaired quickly if we have to.
Okay.
Sometimes we use staff, sometimes we use a contracted service, sometimes we use the IU, depending upon the nature of the problem.
But they would
Yes.
all do something different?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. Would it be intended to maintain that service relationship through the IU in the future?
We really haven't discussed that in particular. I would say at
We
this
would
point.
assume so.
I don't see any reason
Are
to
we
stop.
obliged?
No, but
No.
we would probably want to, so long as we find them attentive, and as long as we
Right.
get good service, we
Right.
would
I
probably
mean-
want to.
Depending on who you buy it from, there could be
Well, I
a
was gonna
warranty
say,
as long as
we
3
decided
years.
to go
Yeah,
with-
yeah.
Which would be the manufacturer's support, if you
And-
bought equipment that had that kind of
During,
warranty.
during warranty, you have a different
Yes.
support than you
Yeah.
do after
Yes.
warranty is the.
No, I understand.
You know.
and
All new equipment we're buying in the district, we're buying with 3-year warranties.
Okay.
That's manufactured.
Right.
I appreciate the vocabulary list because I am daily learning about computer technology, but I didn't see a definition for a RAM. What is a RAM versus a ROM?
Random access.
RAM is memory in the
Okay.
machine. ROM is an actual CD.
That's the.
That's that little plate.
Read-only.
Read-out.
Okay.
Read-only memory is in the machine, it's chips.
Right.
That's memory in the machine. That is a ROM. That's actually a disk.
And a RAM is what?
RAM is chips in the machine, it's
In the
memory.
machine. That's how much
Can't take it out.
memory is built into the machine.
Yes.
Okay.
That's how much information it can bring into itself.
Okay. Okay, the cost estimates, the software licenses, Lou, approximately how many licenses would be obtained?
They're indicated on there. If you look at Windows 95, it says 60 workstations, Office Pro 97, it says 60, and the NT licenses is also 60.
Okay. So is that a total of 120 or just 60? Period.
I'm not sure what you're.
60.
It's 60 in each
60 for
one.
each.
60 in each.
one?
You
You have to have a, okay.
But you have to have a license for each machine.
Okay, now let me ask a question. because this is just something that I'm curious about. Should a social studies teacher decide to take their class to the library, and say at some point the district purchases compatible software to the social studies curriculum, would said teacher be able to come to the library and access to the students the compatible software for them to do something on the computers at that time?
Are you talking about social studies software or something?
Or language arts?
Okay.
Pick a set.
If you wire appropriately, you buy the appropriate number of licenses that you're going to need for concurrent usage and all that, yes. You can even do that from your classroom. The library could house the actual social studies software on their server, and if you wire appropriately to a classroom or a lab situation, you could access it from that lab.
Okay, what about a teacher who may want to come down and put together a lesson plan on one of the computers and may have it their own disk to, would they be able to access?
Is it their personal disk?
Yeah.
Or
If it's their
If you can-
personal,
one that's
no, because of,
compatible?
If you bring in a single software license, a disk, as a teacher, let's say I bring in, I don't know, George of the Jungle software, okay? And we're going to learn about jungles. And I have my disk at home that I use. If I bring that in and copy it on 30 machines, I'm in violation of that license. It can only be used once because I'm the sole owner of that piece of software.
And so if we were to purchase, say, software for the new language arts program, said teacher would not be able to come down with the complementary, with the compatible software.
If you buy the appropriate licenses, you can do that.
Which I'm assuming we would do at the time that we would purchase anything like that, correct?
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, from the language arts, the textbooks that we bought, we have the
Right.
rights to buy the accompanying CD-ROM software, and the discs were here the night we adopted the textbooks, and we have the right to purchase that, but we have to purchase the discs themselves, the media itself, but we have the rights to use it for as many textbooks as we purchase.
I think there are a variety of answers. With proper projection equipment, the teacher can remain in the classroom.
Right.
That's what I was
project-
gonna-
and
Exactly.
project with this projection equipment from the computer to the screen for the entire class, for demonstration purposes, for
Exactly.
for a variety of
Many of the
purposes.
texts
So
are scanned in terms of, many of the texts now that are developed are scanned so that you can use a VCR, scan a particular area of the text and the display will come on the screen.
To take that idea one step further, that CD-ROM could be existing, or that piece of software could exist in the library, and if you had a workstation connected to the library in a classroom or a lab, and you had a projection device attached to that PC, you could essentially pull that from the library all the way to your classroom, if you have appropriate licensing.
there are many variables to
I am
accomplish the
learning
goal.
that.
Yeah, there are many variables.
It is
There's not a single.
most confusing to
there's
figure
not a single
out
answer.
how this works, but I'm getting there slowly. Please be patient. Okay. The staff development and the training costs that would go along with this upgrade are there. No sense upgrading the system and bringing in new programs and hardware, software, whatever else goes along with it, all those bells and whistles, unless you're going to train your staff to use it properly. And they, in turn, training the other teachers plus the students. So I would need to know those projected training costs. I would also like to know the increase in staff that is projected when you go from 23 stations, which is what you have now. Well, you count the ones that are broken. You are going to have more staff to help the students who come in.
We did not plan to have more staff.
Less, really, I think, because we upgraded equipment.
We
Well, I
did.
don't think that's realistic.
Well, it was never.
Isn't there a ratio now that we have?
Dr. Carter, ladies, if you could field that question, that's a
We
good
really
point.
looked at that variable. We projected this on the basis of current staffing. We would not assume that additional staffing was required. We looked at that variable. One piece that we mentioned was that we looked at the efficiency of the research piece. In other words, if you have students that are involved versus if you have 100 students in the library now with 20-some stations versus now you have 100 students now with 56 stations, or students in other sites in the building, there's going to be more interactive learning, I would think, and more involvement continuing. But we really looked at the variable of additional staffing. We didn't assume that at all.
Dr. Connor assured me that when classes come down, that the teacher comes with them, that that's not
Oh,
a free
absolutely.
period for teachers, and if it's special ed, so does the aide. Is that correct?
Yes,
That's
yes,
correct.
definitely.
No, but, I mean, while I was there today, the librarians were sitting down with individual students and helping them, find the things that they needed, that they were looking on the current system for.
But this is supposed to
Right,
help expedite
exactly,
that,
it's
isn't
their
it?
job.
Yes.
So my
Take
point
it
is,
as
if
being
you
so
have
onerous.
double the amount of students
Yeah,
in there.
that's how it's going to
In
happen.
another
I don't
day,
think it's unrealistic to project that out, folks, because there's
We'd
a.
love to have another library.
It took us a while to get it out of you.
I told you, I knew it'd come out.
Took us a while to get it out of them,
there may be
Okay.
another day when we talk about computer aids, but we have never discussed the need for computer aids in relation to this program or this proposal. Never once did the need for an additional librarian or a computer aid or additional staff surface in any of our meetings. And we've had a half dozen meetings where that could have surfaced. It never did.
I think if you're talking about the upgrades anyway, you're going to be getting more enhancements, so consequently, I don't think you're going to less work.
It's easier.
Computers make work and they save work, so.
You're kidding me, less work.
Oh, I would
Absolutely.
think, sure.
Mrs.
And I
Krieger,
would-
do you have more questions?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
Like, where's the conveyor belt that's just gonna shoot the books out of the kids after they enter the information in the computer? Okay. And finally, there will be, annual upkeep costs to any renovation or upgrades, of the library. I've been reading and reading and reading about those, costs, and they range anywhere from a third on up higher to the original startup costs that you begin with. So at $288,000 startup for this, you can pretty close figure at a third what those annual upkeep costs would be just for this
equipment
particular,
maintenance or for?
for whatever. Hardware, software, just maintenance.
When you purchase these type of computers, you can get like warranties, right?
I mean, you'll get a
I know,
3-year
I-
warranty. 3-year warranty, so you're not gonna have any hardware problems until after the 3rd year as far as it costs.
Yes, but there's other related costs
Yes.
outside of the warranty for the equipment that go into maintaining and keeping these kinds of things current, competitive, and challenging to the students. And it's just something that the board needs to be aware of.
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
not a scare tactic, folks, okay? It's just a reality
Upgrades.
of maintaining this kind of investment. And a lot of the problems that we have currently come from not planning for those costs. Nobody's saying they don't want to do these things. What I'm saying is that we have to talk about the costs, not be afraid to talk about the costs, and knowing about the costs, be willing to decide on what's the best thing to do.
Repairs, replacement, maintenance contracts, all those things are real topics.
Sure.
They are all topics that cannot be ignored.
Exactly, so
Right.
that is my point, precisely, and that's all I have to say right now.
Okay, Mr. Allen.
When I came in tonight, somebody said to me, asked me for a slide rule.
Probably yours.
I still have one.
No, but I kind of laughed and I said, do they still make them?
Yep.
And this kind of reminds me of when I was in college about 20-something years ago, where they were trying to bring in handheld computers for people to use in math and sciences, and everybody said, you can't do it. You've got to know the slide rule. You've got to know the slide rule. You'll never be able to use a computer or a handheld computer. And this is kind of like we're at this stage now where we're kind of replacing books with computers and screens and CD-ROMs and such. And it's just tough for some of us old folks to get through here, but I'm all for it. I think it's a good idea. Is there any way, is there any value to wiring our current computer labs to the library, to use them as workstations with the new equipment we get?
I would say there's an absolutely good reason to do that. The labs are used a lot for classes, so today we're going to have to do some rescheduling and rethinking how you would use the labs on an ongoing basis. But yes, even in a classroom situation where you're doing business, economics, or something like that, you could be also accessing information from the library while you're in your classroom doing something else. The class assignments could be enhanced greatly by having that direct access to the library.
But the ability to pull wires in that building has some limitations as well.
A great deal of planning.
Proximity and place channels to pull wires.
A great deal of planning and design has to go into the high school as far as wiring.
I think Art could speak to that consideration because
it's
we faced those questions when we talked about the approximate costs for this project.
If I take it a step further, if we can physically fit so many students in the library, would it make sense to just have a satellite library room with computers for access and make it a room close to the library? I mean, it's something to consider anyway. We're going to be adding new classrooms, take a current room close to the library and get more access to all the hardware that we're using. It's a thought. I don't know if it'll work, but
I did not
consider.
I did not discuss that with the committee, but I discussed it with people apart from the committee. The first consideration is we would need a professional person every period of the day to staff that room, and that becomes another consideration. We didn't propose an additional professional person here.
Or if a social studies class wants to use the computer, he or she takes her class to that room, schedules that room, and uses it from there.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be just free research for students.
We could equip an additional adjoining room.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, with the additional labs, there's that possibility of doing that. I mean, a lab can serve many functions, but certainly that could be one where a teacher reserves the lab to come in and use the lab to access the library from the new edition. I mean, that's a real possibility. The possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
You know, really.
I would suggest highly that you tie all computer equipment that you can together in a network so that everyone can talk to one another when it's done.
With the equipment we're seeing proposed here, is there any limit to how many stations can work off the hardware at any one time?
Well, there'll be a limit someday on the server. Those servers I'll use the word robust, can handle quite a bit of information as well as it's upgradable in its present form to even more power. But someday there's a limit to everything.
Could we, for instance, add 2 or 3 28-station labs to this server without taxing it?
Depends on the application.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what they're doing.
Right.
I mean, it's a thought question that you have to look at what the applications are and what the the online access is going to be.
The important thing is we shouldn't assume that we can put all 7 labs at the high school added onto this server and this equipment.
And you may also want to consider redundancy when you start talking about 7 or 8 labs and have all in one server anyway, and have that server go, you lose 7 labs. So there's trade-offs that you have to think about.
When the server goes down, everything goes down.
You have to think about those things.
Don't let it go down.
They get tired at a point.
Okay, I have no more questions. Thank you.
Yes, I'm assuming that all this will go out to bid, right?
I would assume so. That's been the practice.
How are those numbers driven, anyway? If you could make 3 calls, or, I mean, how did you?
These calls, fairly standard. I pretty much know the pieces that you have to have. The software we get from educational pricing And then there's a variety of vendors that we deal with. I can just pick up the phone and say, give me a range. This is the type of configuration I'm looking for. Give me a range for a price, a high and a low, and do it that kind
Could
of
all
that
be
way.
purchased on state bid.
It can be purchased on state bid, and you'll probably do a little bit better than the figure you see here. Not a whole lot, but a little bit.
How about cooperative buying?
With other districts?
Yes.
That's for your discussion.
More research.
Yeah.
I believe, for instance, if we bid the 60 personal computer workstations for 100, listed here, for an approximate $150,000, we would get them for less than if we bought them from the state bid.
That would be.
Isn't that a given?
Yes.
You might also get them less if you go through a consortium as well. So.
The IU?
The IU, there's other school districts that are upgrading. Perhaps if we buy 160, there might be another school district that wants to buy 40. Now you're talking to a manufacturer for 100, you might get a better price than.
There are those variables, but this is a round number to show you the scope of the project. These are not real firm numbers by any means.
No, I'm saying, Ken, we never do that, but I think we really should, because with the pressure to increase technology, and we're going to have to do it. I don't think there's any board member here that doesn't want to do it. We have to start looking at some of the, I mean, these are things, this isn't my thinking, these are things that are being suggested by periodicals that we receive as board members. That's happening across the country. This is how school districts are becoming very creative and getting computers in their schools, but also keeping the costs down. And I think it's something we strongly have to pursue. But that, Mrs. Mengel said, is another discussion.
That's okay. Mr. Schilling?
Yes, who will install the equipment, and is the price of installation included?
You can do that a variety of ways. At $2,500, you could probably have someone come in here and install them. That price is probably got enough built into that you would be fine. But you can also have it done by, I'll say, whatever staff would be available.
And really, in all reality, just from looking through this material, once it's installed, to me, I can't imagine it being that much. I mean, it's faster, it's more efficient. It can't be that much difficult to learn. I mean, probably be more exciting to learn. I wouldn't mind going in there myself at this time.
The students, you'll find, it's unbelievable. Some of the staff, it takes a little longer because they just don't get the chance to use it as much as the kids do even at home. So you'll see the students pick it up really quickly.
Yeah, it seems okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hill?
Yes, I have a number of questions. I need some clarification, though. On the list of equipment that you have, the network CD-ROM tower 14, explain to me what that is and what that means.
What the networkable CD-ROM tower gives you or provides you?
Yes.
Okay. It's think of it as a cabinet that you can shove 14 of these in. There are 14 compartments to put those in. Okay. It's attached via a wire to the network. It is accessible by any PC that has the appropriate software to get to those CDs. So there are 14 different titles you could put in there at the maximum.
You're telling me that for the 60 stations that you're adding 14 CD-ROMs stations?
Essentially, yes.
Okay. Do you think that's enough? Some of the dialogue we had here that people need to access, 60 people come in and want to access the same CD. You have the terminals, but you don't have the CDs.
Yeah, you can do that. All 60 can access any one of those CDs
At the
same time.
Oh, they can, okay. All right.
Don, let me also clarify another point. These network CD towers, in some terminology, they've been called jukeboxes because they will load these CDs the way some of our multiple audio CDs load them. But conceivably, what you would do is put your 14 reference resources in there that most people would get to, so they could do that. For example, the question was having a 2 CD set. How would we use something like that? If both CDs on the CD set were in this tower configuration, if the information that you needed was on volume 1 would be available, volume 2 would be available without having to physically remove a CD from a machine, put the second one in, and start over again. So the tower, in my opinion, would probably be used for those reference resources most frequently utilized, but each one of these computers is also a complete multimedia workstation which has a CD drive of its own with a collection that the librarians would have, an individual could come and get that CD loaded into that individual machine and access it from that point.
Okay, well, I learned something. I didn't know that two workstations could access the same CD.
Yeah, some CDs are not multi-user like that, some are. And that's why also there's CDs in each of the machines. You could come get a single-user CD from a cabinet full of CDs, put that in your PC that you're working on at the present time, and then take it back.
All right.
All that we're requesting is networkable, so every
All right.
student can get it.
Since you mentioned network, it raises another question for me. I know when I was employed in the past, we had computers were on network. And when we were on the network, we only had to buy one copy of the software, no matter how many workstations we had on there. But legally, with you're on the network, you only have to buy one copy.
That's not true. It depends on what time you're talking about. A lot of people think of networks, if I go back 10 years ago, and you think of a network, it may have been a mini computer or a mainframe that housed a huge piece of software that cost literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. That was accessible. Everybody had a terminal that was attached to it because you paid a huge license to use it. And there were stratified licenses. Some mainframes, you'd get 200 people that you use that piece of software. If I wanted to add another 100 users onto that mainframe, I had to buy an additional 100 licenses of that. So there, even though everyone was using it, you were paying to utilize that. In today's world, when you're buying PC software, you have to buy a license for every machine that's going to use that piece of software. That's why it's got to be done that way. It's still the same idea. It's just a little bit. It's the same game, only a little bit different, I should say. The prices are cheaper. That's all.
Okay.
So you were still paying for that, even though you didn't realize.
All right. I knew we were on the network because I know at the time, before we went on the network, there was all kind of bastardized software all over the place. They were concerned about it doing that way. So when we went on the network from a central computer system, a large computer system, all that other stuff went out. We only had to buy one copy.
Right.
But you're telling me there's a difference now
Yeah,
between
you
central
paid a
computer
large
and
license
PC networks. So I learned two things today.
And Don, some of those licenses can be purchased, and they'll call them enterprise licenses, and it says, we don't care how many people use this software, but you're going to pay a fee to enable everybody to use that software. And usually it only becomes cost efficient when you've got thousands of people trying to use the same software.
Okay. The Atlas and some of these CDs that you're referring to this evening, those have to be upgraded, I guess, on almost a yearly basis or very periodically basis. So that's part of the cost that Sharice is referring to. There'll be a constant cost to upgrade our CDs and keep them in line with what we need to do and that type of thing. Yeah, I think, of course, local area network, like we're going to do in this building, is something we got to think about doing at the high school. Well, we can't do it in this time. It's somewhere in our lifetime, or somebody's lifetime. They're going to have to talk about local area network in the high school itself.
I mean, that is a complex undertaking at the high school because of its layout.
I think those two clarifications help me a lot to understand kind of where these costs are related to. A couple other things. I guess piggybacking on what Sharice said regarding training, I guess my thought was that there's really I don't see a lot of training here. The process is the same as we're doing now. Everything we're doing now, only doing with better machines and faster, and I don't see where there's any really training needed. You do indicate in here that no internet service is included and above. Internet's the big fun word that everybody loves to use today. I guess I would like to ask the librarians or whoever over here that what's your opinion about internet as related to the libraries? It's another data source. You got your whole library and you got all these CD-ROMs with data. How important is the internet for additional data?
Let me take a stab at that.
Okay.
Certainly, there's a lot out there on the internet, but I think we recognize before we even go there, we need to have a user policy related to internet. Certainly, there's a lot of great things on the internet, but we also recognize there's some problems out there. And before we go there, we need to have some serious discussion about a use of policy, so that's why we didn't include that in this proposal.
There's nothing here for the cost of lines for internet. This does not include internet.
Well, let me go, you're getting ahead of me, Ken.
Sorry.
Putting that aside, we got a policy, you can use internet safely, and you're locked out of where you shouldn't be, and nobody can get at it. Do we feel that then is internet as another database source? I guess it would be nice to have another database source for the library for people to use. Is that correct?
Well, I'll answer that, sure. I think that
I
would
mean,
be a great opportunity.
obviously you can't say no to that. I mean,
to sit at my terminal and order airline tickets.
Yeah, well, you could do that.
But certainly, it's a great opportunity if indeed we work out all the bugs.
While I agree it's in the database source, I also believe you don't need 60 lines of it. You may only need it. That's just another encyclopedia that you could go to that may be accessible to only one or two units. And when that thought process comes in, I just want to let you know my thought process was in that area related to that. Now, are these computers that we're buying in this $2,500, do they have modems in them?
No.
They do not.
No, and you don't have to go to the internet via modem.
I don't think we'd ever want to do that.
You would never do that.
Okay.
Today.
Not with modems.
Basically, when you get to where you've moved forward enough and you're starting to talk about wide area connectivity between the buildings and different things, you would get some outlet source via your network from your wide area infrastructure.
Is this something like Adelphia sells now?
I'm sorry?
Adelphia Cable TV sells this high-speed internet connection.
They have the cable modem connection you can buy. Yes, that may be one method that we use, some sort of cable idea. We may use Bell Atlantic, we may use MCI. There are a lot of providers that get you to the internet via a network connection, which is much, much faster. And believe it or not, if you do that appropriately, every workstation will have access to the internet, just one or two.
Okay. Well, in summary here, as I guess I preached from the day I talked about technology, I said, tell me what you need, why you need it, and what good it's going to do us. I'd support it. And I believe you brought that message to me tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Donald. Mr. Whites. I know you have tons of questions, Mr. Whites.
I have a million questions. I have very few questions. I don't know if you tried to just average out the cost of laser printers with the dollar figure that if this does move forward, that I would strongly suggest that one or two printers were outside of the $2,000 category and more likely in the $5,000 category to give you the highest page per minute printout, or you'll have a line in a queue waiting for students to get their printed materials. The types of things that Mrs. Krieger was talking about in terms of what else it would cost us, so we can bring ideas such as there would be yearly supplies for paper, toner cartridges for the printers. I do believe that if we buy from the right manufacturer, we can go 3 years without any additional hardware maintenance costs. The software licenses that are also here are a one-time purchase. But the additional software licenses, if what was included in there, instead of calling them licenses, they might be subscription fees. They also would be an annual cost. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. That's kind of my thought process.
That's what that money
is. That those things would be there. And the only other thing I could think of, perhaps to help you out, is that there would be costs built into this, of course, but since we're advertising to fill our vacancies right now, the only other annual expenditure that could be attributed to this would be the salary of our own internal network administrator. So those are the only things that I could think of that would be the kinds of costs that we were looking for to understand what happens here. But in my opinion, this is a very simple plan. Elegant in its simplicity. It will provide more access to more students for more data, and once again lays a foundation for everything we might do in the high school. And I certainly hope that we get the opportunity to approve this and move forward with it as quickly as we possibly can.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Weiss.
Hey, Donna, before you, just one other thing I forgot. I want to be picky.
Not you, Donald.
Oh, yeah. The, coming in, those tables with the 5 computers on them, access, if this is the scale, let me recommend you only put 4 on a desk. I think there's no space there for anybody but 5.
The diameter of the table may not be appropriate. We would certainly want to look at
They're going so
that.
fast at those tables, they won't even touch each other.
Oh, okay.
It's a conveyor belt, there's space.
Your caution is heard and well taken.
Okay, Dr. Cotter, first of all, I want to thank you in advance of a comment you made in your presentation that you were open to having this plan tweaked by a consultant. One of the a call that I had this afternoon with Mrs. Scher, who's not with us tonight, she's not feeling well, was her desire to maybe see, aside from board scrutiny, a consultant, somebody that does just this for a living, come in and just look this over. Maybe the idea Mr. Allen had about a room off to the side, maybe there's a better way to do what you really want here, and maybe a consultant could provide that. Later this evening, after your presentation, and Mr. Nyman, you must stay. Other related business, this board has to talk about consultants for the immediate future here at the district. So hearing your willingness and openness to that was much appreciated in advance. Secondly, something was mentioned over here, I'm not sure which board member, but talking of when you have the library fill up with 100 participants and you have 60 stations, it might not be enough. I remember clearly, back when we had those old catalogs and, study carols, that people that were hogging time in the library were watched closely, and if you were stalling, hogging time, hogging books, you got one of these. So I'm assuming that a lot of that monitoring does go on. So if somebody's being a computer hog, or maybe just dallying and playing games, that librarians know just that, and know how to move a crowd through to maximize the usage there. So am I right or wrong, or has the field changed? Close. On what list?
I didn't say that.
Hogging.
He did.
Okay. Again, it was already said earlier this evening, but thank you for the glossary. It shouldn't be assumed that every board member here knows what you're talking about, because we don't, and I'm not going to pretend I do. And I'm sure these members in the audience and parents that may pick this up later will appreciate that glossary also. So that was a thoughtful piece in the presentation. Mr. Nyman, the warranty mentioned earlier, is that anticipated and placed into these prices
Yes,
here, or
ma'am,
is
it
that
is.
yet to be?
Yes, ma'am, that is.
You believe that's in there? Thank you. Of the 3 contradictions that were, contraindications that were mentioned by you, Mr. Nyman, no training costs and no internet, it's important to me that there's verification here this evening that when we've had people from the audience come up and talk about internet, it's generally done with a twist that somehow we have no internet because it's the board's fault. The board hasn't dealt with internet. Internet has been something that we recognize as prudently in need of a policy, but also that's something that should come out of the administration, now the educational body of the district. Why internet? What about internet? And how come we should have it? So I appreciate it being made clear in an ever so subtle way that it's not this board that is doing anything with internet except waiting upon proper procedure and requests from faculty. Mr. Nyman, you already answered questions about prices subject to bid and how the costs were driven. I thank you for those answers. Additional software licenses, it says $10,000. What are we paying now for licenses in total?
I can't answer that. We had, basically what we did there is I come up with a figure that we could work with. That figure may come down drastically. I doubt it would ever go up. I mean, I'm not even sure they have a direct answer. I mean, I don't know what you pay today, but I don't know that you can.
Didn't we clarify that this could be annual subscription
Yes.
fees, in other words?
Well, then how many licenses do we hold?
At present,
Thereabouts.
Magazine?
I don't have that answer for you, but we can find that out.
That's fine.
Do we pay
That's fine.
for all the items that were in your attachment? I mean, are these all the types of Are we talking about licenses for the card catalog software, the Alliance, Disclit, Full Text Magazine, Newsbank, Multimedia?
Some of these we have already, some are things that we...
Are they renewable costs
Yes,
every year?
okay.
I think
Some
that's
are,
part of
some
the
aren't.
answer to the
Yes.
question.
Many of these costs are in your normal annual operating budget.
Right.
Yes.
So these aren't necessarily 10,000 new dollars.
No, not
That is
necessarily.
an important part here,
Okay,
because if 10,000 new dollars,
yeah.
that's different. Also, as we look at something in here, the ERIC program, that might be in here, but that may also have been a recommendation under staff development budget. Again, not new dollars. Those dollars yet to be spent that already exist. So that would have helped us a little bit. I know that the state is looking, if I'm reading correctly, the state is looking to remove games from computers on state jobs. Can you talk to us about games?
We don't
In the
have
library?
any.
That's not a big game room down there, is it?
We don't
You're
have
not
any.
proposing or...
No. As I mentioned to you, we have our network set up and would expect to continue to do so, have it set up in such a way that the student comes, has a menu available to him. Those are the programs that he or she can access. When they exit those programs, they go right back to the menu. There is never anyone wandering around in DOS. There is never anyone getting out to games. We don't have any games on there. Every piece of software that we have on our network are, licensed subscriptions that we have purchased and are there for research, and they're the only things that we have.
Okay, but somebody can't go down there and play video games to blow time.
No, and as you said, we'll be monitoring
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
That's the same in the labs as well.
Okay.
Everything is secured so that they can't get to that kind of stuff.
Okay, that's important. I think it's important. I know as a mom, I want to know. No, don't tell me you're down there playing Sega something. Art?
Yes.
Talked a lot about facilities here, and I'm sure you could keep us here till 3 in the morning about infrastructure of the library. But if you could give me the Cliff Notes version of what you know that you're going to have to look at and your men will be responsible for in this $35,000 upgrade.
We met last week on location because we were greatly concerned that we would not have adequate power source in close proximity to the IMC, and we might have to go back to the boiler room and do a home run.
Okay.
And if you can picture that, that would be coming down past the gym and down past the pool and all the way through the lobby area and back to the IMC. Fortunately, we have some spare openings right above the IMC. If you look at your floor plan where the letter L is, on the second floor, the letter L in the word instructional materials, the letter L in instructional, right above that, we have a major electrical control area, switchgear. We are looking to furnish minimally 450 amps. Most people are not aware of the fact that with newer computers, we have increased the draw and the necessary power requirements, so we need 450 amps. We can produce 600 amps by going to that source above, bringing it down into the IMC, where we will put a multi-panel breaker panel, and we will do that with our people, and then go above the ceiling. And fortunately, if you look at the floor plan, what you're seeing is the small X that you see before printer, for an example, happens to be a column that goes above in the ceiling. Actually, it's a column that supports beams that are above. So fortunately, that's a box column, and we can come down in that column and run both our power and our data lines. So in taking our people over, we, as a matter of fact, we started the process of shopping for components, because unfortunately in the high school we have switchgear that was manufactured by Federal Pacific that's no longer in business, and that's a little bit scary for us. We have it at Hatfield also, and we have to buy reconditioned breakers, if you will, and to make this happen. Today we learned that we can find them, or we were able to find them for about $1,000 a breaker. We only need one. I suggested that we better buy a couple of spare unrelated to this, because someday we may not be able to get them. But we have a comfort level, and I had the electricians there and John Strobel, and we walked the building, and we got lucky, quite frankly. And we're comfortable with our number. It allows us to do what we have to do and give adequate wire mold throughout the stations and bring data and power so that the infrastructure, most school districts today are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to wire buildings. The other thing that was mentioned that is very interesting, when the building was built in 1971 or 1968, actually opened in 71, the entire building is wired back to the television studio with coax cable. So the conduit exists, and when we talk about wiring every room in the building, it's there. Now, as I said, it's coax, but the advantage of that is the conduit is in. The coax, if we were to change to Ethernet or fiber optics, could be pulled back using the coax as a fish.
Save a fortune.
Yeah.
So we're in a better position than you would typically think. And fortunately for us, in a number of our buildings, Inglewood is wired, Montgomery, or not Montgomery, but Hatfield is wired. We have a number of buildings that are wired, that were wired, quite frankly, for video. And that gives us a jump on this. I'm not saying that downstream, I believe it's going to be a sizable expenditure to deal with the infrastructure. For an example, when we leave the high school and go to Brookfield, not Dale, because Dale we allowed for adequate power. I think when we look at Brookton Field, we're going to have a problem, and I need to pre-warn you about that. I mean, when we opened Pembroke in 1959, we didn't have one air conditioner, we didn't have one electric typewriter, we had 2 pieces of AV equipment, and since then, needless to say, we had hand copy machines or ditto machines. We've added all of that, and we haven't changed the electric in the building, the source coming into the building. So we're not sure what we're going to have to do downstream at Brook and Field, and that could be an expenditure that would require from the street in a new source of power.
But it might be an expenditure as time has come.
Excuse me?
It could be an expenditure whose time has come.
Sure.
I mean,
So you
it's
just
59.
can't keep adding. I mean, all of us have experienced that in our homes, you know, when
Sure.
we jump from 60 amp to 200 amp or whatever the case is. So, you know, we have a comfort level at the high school, and we can start the process, and we can do what has to be done, and I'm recommending that the most effective way to do that is to do it with our people. It's cost effective, it would be done on weekends, it would be done as overtime, but it's still cost effective. Most people aren't aware of it. We have put fiber optic cable through the ground with our people from this building to Penndale. And that's how we serve that building from the mainframe here instead of paying a monthly line charge to Bell. So, I mean, we have the people to do it, they're eager to do it, they're excited about doing it, and I think we're fortunate that we're in that position.
This $35,000, is that time, materials, or both?
Labor, materials, cabling, it's everything inclusive.
It's his best estimate.
That's your best estimate of all things? Okay.
Mayor, Donna, one other.
Sure, just one last comment. I just
Yeah,
wanted
okay.
to finish up, and then I'll go back, because I know that it provoked, people have been provoked again, and then we have to get to the audience. Dr. Cotter, I just want to close up, ladies. I feel that this might be the first time ever in a student's history at North Penn, because we have 13 elementaries, we have 3 junior highs, that such a program like this, you know, you might get less, you might get more, we might get it just right, if this, you know, look through again, is a social leveler. Because regardless of where these students come from in terms of their personal homes, their personal backgrounds, or other schools, we know that when they leave the high school, they've all had same access. And we can't guarantee that anywhere else in the school district as of yet. So I see this as educational parity and a social level for all students before they leave us, maybe for the first time. So that's exciting to me. Board questions around, we'll start again, but we'll go this way and back that way. Okay, Mr. Weitz.
Art, can you, with the switchgear that we have, or did you consider power conditioning into the library is that part of what you'd planned?
Yeah, and it's, David, quite frankly, it's not sophisticated, but it will be at the stations and should protect us. I'm not talking about doing what we've done, for an example, here in our computer, where our mainframe is, but we are talking, we have included some power conditioning.
Okay, because typically you would put some kind of a surge suppressor on each one of the workstations, and if the power that came in was already protected in that manner, we wouldn't have to do that, you could just plug them into the outlets.
We will probably do it at the source. We haven't quite decided yet. We may
Again.
either do it at the source, or we may be able to gang 4 or 5 20-amp breakers and condition them individually as 100 amp, for an example.
Because I would think that'd be very desirable.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay, Mr. Hill.
No additional questions.
Mr. Schilling.
No additional questions.
Mr. Allen.
No.
Mrs. Krieger.
Yeah, Art, let me ask you a quick question on this switching stuff we're talking about. If it is ideally the intent to hook up to the addition from the IMC, what is stored at the IMC, wouldn't it be more advantageous to coordinate any upgrades and hook up in conjunction with the addition and look at hooking up through the same source and maybe rewiring and putting in the new source all the way to the IMC rather than from the IMC out through this outdated switching mechanism? I mean, doesn't it?
The bid documents that are on the street for the addition allow for all of the necessary cable trays in the ceiling, conduits in the walls. That whole addition will take us into the 21st century as far as technology is concerned.
Right.
There's a new power source coming into that addition.
Right.
That's taken care of. We are not changing, as I pointed out, we have not anticipated in this project the changing of our existing electrical source, our switchgear and so forth. We just felt that it was going to be cost prohibitive. We felt that we would stay with the Federal Pacific as it relates to our existing power. Now,
No, I understand that for the existing, but I'm talking about in the future, if there is going to be more access gained into the IMC from the addition, is it going to have its own access route, or is it going to have to tie into this switching mechanism that you discussed?
Has its own access.
It will have its own access, correct? So wouldn't it make more sense if it's going to do that? I mean, you're going to tie it in from that end into the IMC, right?
We have the ability to tie, as Dr. Cotter pointed out, the 2 new computer labs are on the first floor of the addition. That's going to be very doable to tie those computer labs into the IMC.
I could be wrong, but I think Sharice is referring to the power source.
The power source.
The power source is an individual power source for the entire new addition.
No, I know, but can you run that power source into the IMC and run the upgrades to the IMC into that new power source?
No, we're basically, what we're doing is we're giving the IMC a new power source. I don't have a problem at the high school. We're giving them a new power source. We're actually taking, what we're doing is by taking 200 amps of electricity and doing it the way we're doing it with a new breaker, we're going to have 600 amps of service.
Yeah, I know.
We're going to have a nice future.
No, I know you said that, but you also said that you were ordering extra parts in case you get to a place in the future where that's not enough and you can't order the parts. So my point is, I'm assuming we're putting on an addition with its own power source that is over and above, I guess, anything else in the building because of the amount of computer stuff that's going to be in that addition. And my point is, wouldn't we be smarter to run that source into the IMC and include what is planned for the IMC into that same power source, so we don't have to worry in the future about whatever it is that you're discussing, elevating, and just waiting?
When we worry in the future, we're going to worry in the entire building. I mean, there are hundreds of Federal Pacific breakers throughout that building. And I mean high voltage breakers. And we just have to trust. I mean, we maintain them well. Unfortunately, we have aluminum cable, and this is very technical, we have aluminum cable, which is another disadvantage, but we maintain that well. I cannot at this point recommend, I have a comfort level as far as the IMC is concerned. I cannot recommend going back to our source and bringing new power just to the IMC. I guess it would be more critical, quite frankly, if I would bring it into the boiler room or the air conditioning unit or something that would shut school down. Maybe the pool, for an example, with pool heaters and fillers and so forth. I mean, if we have an electrical problem and we're down for a couple of days, we can deal with that in the IMC. And I'm not saying this is going to happen, but we can deal with that in the IMC, whereas, I mean, our refrigeration on the back of the cafeteria, it's all the same system. So I really, without changing the entire building, which would absolutely be cost prohibitive and would take time, I mean, we'd have to shut the building down. We'd have to extend the summer vacation, quite frankly, to do it.
Well, then how, if internet is a possibility, is the power source to the internet something different?
Power source to the internet is data and not electricity. Okay. So we have the fortunate thing that I pointed out about having the building wired for television is if you will, on the wall in each classroom, there is a receptacle with a conduit that has a home run to the TV studio, which is right on the back end of the IMC, to every space in the building. And that is a real advantage when you start trying to wire buildings for data. I mean, we may find that, we're not using that much TV. We have a distribution system for television, whereas we could put a tape on a VCR in the television studio and distribute it throughout the building. Okay. We're probably going to, then the point that I was making, someday convert that to data more instead of the video. Or maybe a combination.
Okay, I picked up that we're charging students 25 cents a sheet for copying of microfished articles and from the newspapers. And I asked of the librarian if they were considering assessing a similar fee for data that is printed off, the computers off the printer. That was something that had not been discussed, that was kind of thought about, but nothing was determined. So I'd like to know, what their final conclusion is on that at some point. And also, and finally, at some point, Dr. Hesser, I would just like you to address any curriculum connections, please, to this upgrade that you see.
You want that now? Would you like that now?
Whatever. We can listen to the
Dr.
audience.
Hassler, yeah, let me get the last 4 questions if Mr. Mosey has any. We're going to take a break. We'll come back because then there's audience of citizens. Kids tell me they have to do a tape break. Maybe we can bring that around.
Do you have like 5 minutes?
Yes, we do.
Okay. They're probably just yes or no. I pulled out the March 12th presentation. It looks like we have 31 computers at the library. Would that be about right? Currently?
That was as of March, and there may be equipment that is no longer there, or equipment that is no longer being used, or broken, or any combination
But we
there.
had 31 at one time. Would that be an approximate number, good number?
Probably, yeah, at one time.
And we're going to throw all these out?
No, I don't think anyone's saying throw anything away in particular. I think
Are we just adding or replacing?
No, you're not adding. You're replacing everything that's currently there. Everything that's currently there really isn't usable for what we're talking about doing, but there are assets there that can be used elsewhere within the district.
We throw nothing away unless it's examined for use elsewhere.
Because I just want to know if we're getting 60 stations, that would bring us up to
No.
91.
No. Everything there.
We're going to have a total of 60.
Everything there comes out, and then we examine and determine what is usable from what and where it's best used. What do you call that, Lou? Reassigning the assets?
Recycling.
Asset management.
Asset management, okay.
Okay. Also, according to this list, I noticed we have 7 printers right now, 5 printers networked, 2 not networked. Are we getting rid of those, or are we going to also have 14 not get rid of them? Are we going to have 14 at the IMC?
Currently, in the library, they have, I think, one that's usable. We've had a variety of different machines in there as printers. They have nothing in the library that is a useful printer today, nothing.
So these 7 are all gone now?
There's one printer that's...
They're there. There is one that is networked. The others are on standalones, and they're all dot matrix.
So we do currently have 6 or 7 right now. I don't
I'd
care if
have
they're
to go and
documented.
count. There's a couple sitting in the back room that are not working.
Yeah, I mean, they're,
Okay.
again, the same sort of thing as
Now,
a computer.
are we looking to keep them and purchase 7 more, or are we going to replace those 7?
They wouldn't utilize those in the new network.
Okay, so we're replacing them. Okay. And we also, I noticed, have one server. That's going to be replaced by the new server.
That server isn't as powerful as the workstation we're proposing.
Well, what are you going to do with that server?
Yes, it will be utilized as, we're replacing it.
It's become a workstation.
It won't be, it'll become a workstation somewhere in the district. Basically, it's a workstation.
It will not be thrown out, it will be used, right?
Yeah,
It will
we
be
don't,
used.
in this district, we throw nothing away. It's just, you can't do
I
that.
just want to know if we're replacing it or we're adding to it, that's all. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a recess and we'll be back. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for waiting for us. This time we had 4 questions that went all the way around. I think that covered everything, and now looking at audience of citizens. Anybody wishing to speak to the board, please come forward and do so.
Cindy Granenko, Tomenson Township. I wanted to start off and say that because of the back-to-school nights, a lot of people from the middle schools, which those kids are going to be affected by the decisions made tonight, their families aren't here, so that's a shame. I'm glad we're starting somewhere, but I'd like to see an outline for future plans, including a time frame and a cost commitment. The Abington School District is committing to a $6 million technology initiative this year. This past summer, wires were installed at the junior and senior high schools to provide 200 internet connections. The district ran 21 week-long computer courses, which were attended by about half of the district's 550 teachers and administrators. At the junior high, a math class was changed to a computer lab for a new 18-week computer literacy course for the 7th graders. When Abington hired new teachers for this fall, technical experience was the top priority for their junior high school new hirees. The district has a policy for parents and students regarding internet usage. A hardware-software firewall to block inappropriate sites has been installed. Dr. Cotter said tonight that we want our students to be competitive with any child in any district. I know we have to start somewhere. Please look around. Commit now to bring us into the 21st century with students able to succeed in our technological world. I would encourage you to pass this plan and hope that this is only the beginning to a commitment to provide staff development, internet usage, a technology curriculum for K through 12, and a pledge for budgeting each year so we can compete with our neighboring schools. Thank you.
Hi, H. Bruce Gordon, Montgomery Township. I have questions all over the place here, so you'll have to excuse me if they seem disparate at times. On the floor plan here, I believe, I'm sorry, I walked in a half hour late. I believe I heard that the workstations that are back-to-back and so on are approximately 36 by 30 inches for the workstation area?
For the purpose of this design, that's correct.
Okay. I think, just a comment on that, I don't think it's enough. Typically, you want to spread books out. There also could be multiple students needing to work together on projects, and by being crowded in 4 and 5 to a row here, I don't think you'll have that kind of room. I could be certainly wrong on that, but you might want to look into that. I believe Mr. White's made the comment about the printers. Certainly, you'd want high-speed printers within the library itself, and those may indeed be higher cost, although amazingly, technology continues, prices for technology continues to drop, and you can get good 24-page-a-minute printers now for in the low 2000s. The printers within the offices, I would think we could certainly save some money on and go with slower speed printers for those individual connections. The stand-up workstation area, where you've got 5 PCs here, these are going to be fully configured PCs with all of Windows and so on them?
You're talking about on the circular table?
The circular tables?
There would be a standard configuration around the library.
Okay. I just was wondering whether or not we might, when you talk about site license, whether or not some of those might be able to be considered for minimal workstation usage, just a couple for catalog and a couple for this and that, so that if you didn't need the full tool set, if you will, of software, then you could save some money on the various licenses there. Okay. Let me jump to a couple other questions I had. The CD-ROM tower, I see 14 on that, and on the adjoining pages, there is listed 11 CD needs currently for the software that's there. Is that to be understood, that the software that's listed on this table here with 6 CDs for this and 2 for that, that's your current requests?
Or examples thereof.
Okay. I think you might want to consider, it seems the software is simply growing, not getting smaller. 14 may not give you enough open slots, and you may be looking at having to buy another jukebox, if you will, down the road.
That's good advice, we think.
Very, very quickly. With regards to the server, we've got one server here, and there is no plan right now for redundancy for a backup server, a hot server. If you're down, the whole library is going to be down. And if the whole library is down, you're looking at 100 students a period out of work.
Currently, that is the common usage across the district.
We don't have backup servers.
Whew. Okay. And where is the main equipment, these servers and the storage cabinets? I didn't see a computer room for these off the library. Is it going to be in the building?
There are offices you can't see, Bruce. There are locked and secure areas up in these office facilities, and that's where you'll see hubs and everything will be up in here. You just can't see it.
To the right and the left of the entrance, just above the words Instructional Materials Center.
Okay,
You just can't-
back in the office.
Yeah, you just
where they're
can't.
gonna be.
Yeah, you just can't see it.
Both sides.
Yeah, that's good. That works out real well. The under additional software licenses, you are gonna push for antivirus software, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Viruses can kill computers. I don't know that our students would be hackers and want to get in there and destroy our computers. But no matter what resources you put on there, if you're not keeping up to date with the software, and this is a piece of software that you don't wait a year to update, but you get on a subscription list and get monthly updates as the viruses come out that hit you. It can be such an annoyance that all your software can disappear. Not necessarily those programs that are on your CD-ROMs, but certainly any documents the students might be writing. The let's see, maintenance and repair. Your current contracts cover X number of computers for maintenance and repair?
No, with the IU, it covers anything basically in the district that they can repair.
IU stands for, I'm sorry?
The Intermediate Montgomery County Intermediate Unit.
Ah, good. Okay.
That covers anything we have basically that they can fix. The outside of that, then we have other contract vendors that we use and also our own staff to fix things.
Great. That's good, because I was envisioning an increase in cost just because you're adding 60-odd computers here. Regarding the fact that no internet's being looked into right now, and the fact that there's no policies written, I believe you could almost knock on any corporate door around the neighborhood and pick up an internet policy, throw it on a copier machine, and you're going to be there, just about.
We have policies for many school districts, and we have seen the differences between school district policies, and we will want to recommend to this board the best of all those school district policies we've seen.
Certainly, but that's not a long process, is it? Or am I misunderstanding how this board works?
Legal process.
Yes, but the legal department can look at them, come up with a recommendation and present it to the board, and you could be done within 2 board meetings, or
Mr.
what?
Gordon,
You've got 2 readings, right?
There are companies that have, school districts that have written policies and are being sued today.
Mm-hmm.
And I will show you documentation on that. So, it's easy to say that, let's push for the internet, but I think we have to be careful. And thanks to Mr. Weir, he is collecting enough information that hopefully we'll write a policy we're getting information from the National School Board Association. Because we're on the board, we get a lot of publications, and they're constantly cautioning school boards, be very, very careful before you go on internet.
That's
So
good.
it's not that we're dragging our feet, we just want to make sure that we don't leave ourselves open as some other school districts across the country have.
Sure.
They're being sued today.
That's great, and I think having these in an open area like the library certainly will help with the administration of them and the overseeing, that nothing strange is popping up on screens that you wouldn't expect. There's no staffing in here for supporting these PCs in the library or the servers and so on. The expectation is that the current IT staff, information technology staff, would support this additional equipment?
We would expect that our future hires and our future staff would support the equipment.
And we don't know how many people you're thinking about for that, for future hires and future staff you're talking?
How many people district-wide?
Yeah.
I think we need more discussion on that topic.
Okay. Just one last comment regarding paid consultants. I believe in this community there would be an awful lot of free advice available that you would find worthy of consultant level pay at no cost.
You're on my list since you gave me your business card.
I know you are. I know I am, and I appreciated the thank you, but I haven't been solicited yet. And since you're looking to have people look this over, I think you should involve the community as soon as possible so that this plan, which is a good start, can move forward as soon as possible. Thank you.
Anybody else, please? Yes, Mrs. Conlon.
Bobby Penniman, Lansdale Borough. I have a couple questions, not in any particular order. I must have missed something along the last couple of months. I'm a little confused about what we're doing in the library versus what we're going to do in the addition. Could someone just clarify that for me?
I think, I'll let Art talk to it too. This is an independent project, so to speak, outside of the addition. The two will meet at some point in time via a network at some point, but they're independent of one another.
It would be our wish that this project in some form would be approved and installed maybe about the same time we begin to break ground for the addition. So we would be very optimistic that some form of approval would come for us to move ahead with this. Certainly the 2 new computer labs that are scheduled for the addition will tie in and can tie in, and the capability will be there. But we're not planning an auxiliary library. We're just having tie-in networking capability.
In the addition, have we budgeted for hardware and software? I recall asking Mr. Breslin when he made a presentation if we had soft costs, furniture, fixtures, equipment included in that budget, and he said yes.
We assure you we do.
And it would be the board's choice. There's a movable equipment budget associated with a high school addition, but furthermore, there's furniture design. The 2 classrooms were specifically designed for 28 stations each and wired accordingly, and the conduit and everything is included, as well as the power and as well as the power conditioners and so forth. And then it will be the board's decision with the actual hardware, whether they'll want to buy it out of a budgeted fund or a special fund that did not carry the total bond issue, the number of years involved in the bond issue to amortize the hardware. So the hardware, I mean, it's our plan to put 28 computers in each of the two computer laboratories, but it's the board's call as to how they will finance it.
Okay. So this has not superseded those laboratories in any way. We're going to get those come hell or high water.
Well, and our approach to that, quite frankly, and I just discussed that with the young man from WNPV, is when you do a 600 student addition, you're adding 600 new students, and you're adding 56 stations in two 28-person labs. So, I mean, it's proportionate with the addition, and it's not coming as a big plus. It's part of what you have to do. It's like 6 chem labs to accommodate 600 additional students.
The list of equipment includes 3 communication hubs. I'm not really clear what those might be.
It's a device that allows you to bring multiple wires into it, talk about it as a collective device. It's a communication device for those workstations to come into, and then a single cable can come out the other side, so it brings things together and manages them in a small box about that big. But it's a piece of equipment you must need in a network. You must have it so that the computers can talk to one another.
It has nothing to do with external communication methodology. No.
Yeah.
Okay. We're moving towards an NT environment now in both the library and I think we did in our ESC plans. That is a tactical decision, I guess, that we've made to go to an NT environment. And I noticed that we're still, I saw the ad in the paper for the positions that are open, and we're still looking at people with Novell skills and so on. Are we still supporting other applications?
18 Novell networks exist in the district. 1 in every building, 2 at the high school. And the bus garage is also Novell, that's right. So there is other technology in the district that is here.
We're supporting a variety of equipment and environments.
We still have a load of Apple equipment. It makes it so complicated. I'd just like to reinforce what Bruce said. We need to create a user policy for internet access, and I'm going to make that my personal goal over the next couple of weeks, is to do a research project online myself and see what's out there in terms of internet use policies in the real world. I can't believe that it is so difficult to do something like that. My understanding of the way our hardware is being configured now, once we make the decision to adopt an internet use policy and open the floodgate, if you will, the only hardware we would need then would be a T1 line going out, I guess. Is that right? I mean, it would be very simple then to switch the switch, so to speak.
Well, it's not quite as simple as that. Depends on how you want to deploy that T1 connection you want to deploy. Do you want to deploy it to one building? Do you want to have that T1 access available across all the buildings in the district?
I'm talking about the library right now.
If you want to just drop it in one place, it's not a monumental thing to do. It's not a big task, but there's hardware as well as the line access and getting that all put in place. To do it in one particular place is not an extraordinary task, no. I don't know that I'd do it that way, but.
I would urge the board to move ahead on a user policy as quickly as possible, because a lot of the things that our librarians discussed tonight in terms of the software that we want are items that are easily, quickly accessible online. Newspapers, encyclopedias, magazines, full-text atlasing programs, all sorts of educational information. Access Pennsylvania, all this is available online, and instead of keeping software up to date and adding more towers of CD-ROM drivers, providing access seems to me the long-term, more cost-efficient way to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Mrs. Whitworth and Mr. Sisson.
Mary Martha Whitworth, Talmadge Township. First, I wanted to congratulate and thank the librarians and Dr. Cotter. That was a wonderful presentation, and appreciate you do it. I also want to thank the librarians for the work you're doing over there. If the conditions that you described in the library are like you described them, I really admire you. There must be a tremendous frustration level among the students and among you, so you're doing an outstanding job. Thanks for sticking with it. Related to that also, I wondered if we have any timeline of when we can expect to get these changes made. I think it's really unbelievable that the library at a high school as big as ours is in that condition. Is this something we can look forward to in the next couple of months happening, or are we talking years? Are we talking weeks till we begin to implement what they presented? That's
The next
question.
time I anticipate this will be discussed will be October 14th.
Could it be approved that night then, and then it would go forward immediately?
That's a work session. It could possibly be a special action meeting. It all depends on wishes of the board, majority of the board, and where consensus and direction is taken this evening. There's much to consider, along with consultants, and consultants aren't, Mr. Gordon mentioned something about consultants. When I say consultants, I'm not talking chiefs, we're talking hands-on technical Indians to when I talk about consultants. There are plenty of opinions abounding. We need real work. So,
Well, I guess my next question is, if it is approved in October, then how long does it take to get this installed and
The
implemented?
bidding process would take several weeks. The bidding process would take 4 weeks. And
So it's conceivable we could have it in place by second semester at the high school?
that would be wonderful if we could do that. That would be great.
I think so too, but is it possible? Do we think it's possible?
Is it possible?
Anything's possible,
Sure.
right? Okay.
That's not a promise, but it's possible.
Right, okay. I would strongly suggest.
There's a lot of electrical work. There's furniture to order. There's a lot of coordination. Possible? Probably.
I was just saying second semester because I can't imagine all the senior critical papers and junior critical papers and sophomore research papers being done the way it is now. So I would really urge you to try and get them in before that surge hits for the research papers in the spring. I had a couple of questions about it. I noted, oh wait, should I stop? I'm sorry. I noticed at the two circular ones right inside the door, the two circular stands with the computers, that there's no printer there. So I assume that means that they will still have to handwrite all the citations that come up. How will
They could use one of the other printers. They would be hardwired to any of the other printers. On a network, you can print to whatever.
Right, I realize you can, but they would do it at the, when they come inside the door, and then it would be printing out all the way on the other side of the library. I'm just wondering if it doesn't make sense to have a printer there so they can print out their citations.
Two printers behind them in the offices, and then there's one at the circulation desk too.
Oh, and they could use those for the
I doubt that we would
citations?
use that with
Probably not,
circulation
but the other
desk,
two
but-
behind them.
The ones in the offices, they could print out their citations there and go and get them? Because otherwise it seems like it would take a very long time for them to handwrite all those again.
No, we were planning on them to be
Okay, and also of a concern, there are 52 computers in the main part of the library with only 4 printers. That, to me, doesn't seem real realistic. Is that realistic to only have 4 printers with 52 computers using them?
Depends on the speed of the printers. Even at the $2,000 range, they're fairly significant. We have, I would say, the printer that we put there, we're using anywhere from 10 to 12 people here in the main office on those printers, and we're not seeing a real problem with them. You could also, as Mr. White suggested, and a number of people suggested, you could reallocate some of that money and maybe get an even faster printer in some of those locations. So there's ways to reallocate that money and do it even more efficiently. But those printers are fairly significant, even at $2,000.
Fairly fast, you mean?
Mhm.
They work fast? I think the difference between what's happening here with printers, though, and what's happening there is, if my understanding, it, almost everything they pull up, they'll need to print out. So we have 52 people needing to print out their information kind of all at once on those printers. Is that not right? Is that what would happen?
Well, I mean, conceivably, at the maximum, you can have 52 people all hit the print button at the same time. That's theoretically possible, but highly unlikely, and there's going to be some queuing up, and there may be small waits, but I don't think there'll ever be anything greatly significant. We have these printers in labs where there are 28 people using them, and the lab instructors can't believe how fast they get their output.
Okay, thank you. That's the answer. Ms. Mingles said that she was really pleased at the social leveling that would take place with this, and I also am thrilled with it. But I don't think there's going to be social leveling without internet, because many of our students have internet in their homes, and there are many students who don't have internet in their homes, and until we have internet in the schools, we'll still have haves and have-nots. And the internet is where we get most of the access to a lot of information, so I don't think that social leveling will occur. My other comment is that one of President Clinton's educational goals for the year 2000 is that every 8th grader can log on to the internet by the year 2000, and it's not going to happen here if we don't have access to internet. Our 12th graders won't even be able to log on, so I think that's really a shame. I have a question also for the librarians. It's my understanding that most of the software you're talking about, the encyclopedias and those kinds of things, all come with connections to the internet to make them complete. Like if you get an encyclopedia on software, the connection with the internet is built into it, and that's the way it makes that encyclopedia complete, correct?
Some of them, yes. Yeah, the encyclopedias basically are the ones that do that. Some of these other programs don't.
Okay, so we won't be able to use that part of the program if we don't have internet there. I again find it inconceivable that we're not including internet right now in this package, and I just am curious, Dr. Cotter, could you tell us, since Ms. Mingle said that administrators needed to ask for it, why you're not asking for it? Why do you not need it at the high school?
It's not that it's not needed, and it's not that we're not asking for it. What we're saying is we recognize the reality here that in order to proceed, we need a user policy. We recognize that there are some issues out there in terms of some negative things on the internet. Certainly, we don't want to expose our students to those. People have mentioned blockers, and certainly there are blockers out there. And certainly, there's a way around any blocking system that exists, and I think the students will be the first to tell you that. We need a viable policy, and until we do that, it's not conceivable to move forward.
We have given our energies to this proposal. When this proposal in some form is approved, we will want to talk with the board in another public meeting about internet. And I think we will be doing that in short order. The question will continue to be asked until we address it, have dialogue here. But we can't do internet without doing this.
Right.
And so we have to do this in whatever form to whatever commitment the board is able to make. And then we will address the internet topic promptly.
Are we in parallel working on the policy? I mean, is that an ongoing process? Do we have a committee? What's happening to get that policy? Because I had asked about that in May, and I was told we need a policy. And that seems like 5 months is enough time to come up with a policy.
Well, surely 5 months would be enough time to come up with a policy, but we're not there yet. Our energies have been spent here, and we will be bringing forth a policy.
In the near future?
I believe so.
Okay. And just one last question. If we approve this, which I really hope you do, I think after you subtract the money that you used for the ESC technology, you still have about $200,000 left from the $1 million that was committed to technology for this year. And my question is, do you have a plan for when another presentation is going to be made to use that money? Or any idea of where that money is going to be used?
We have promised the board that we will look next at the middle school libraries. We may have a couple other priorities that need to be looked at simultaneously, and that $200,000 might not be enough, but we have promised that we will look next at the middle school libraries and then at the 13 elementary school libraries and determine what our immediate needs are for those 16 facilities.
Okay, thank you.
Donna, can I ask a question about the internet?
Certainly, Mr. Allen.
Right now, in our proposal, there is no access to the internet. I'm going to assume that we're not going down a road here with this equipment and software purchasing that precludes the use of the internet later. And I will also assume that if we were going to have access to the internet right now, the only thing different about this proposal would be the additional cost of the internet, no additional.
There would be the cost.
Equipment would be the same, software would be the same, space would be the same, power, everything else. So to add on later is not going to add additional costs.
Oh, yeah.
Wait a minute, will you let me finish? That we're not going to be undoing things that we have already done as far as additional costs, and we're not going to be changing things that we've already done because of additional costs. It's merely, I don't know the amount, but it will be the additional cost for the wiring and the connections and the access.
Basically, it'll be the recurring cost of some line cost. It will be the cost to the provider for the internet service.
Right. But stuff you would be paying whether you did it today or next year?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, by the time that internet, any wish for internet comes forth from the administration, will we not get a detailed sheet on the costs? I understand they can be pretty absorbent, especially in a school this size.
Depends on what you're doing, yeah. I mean, but I don't think it's got to be extremely cost prohibitive either. It doesn't have to be that way.
We look forward to hearing about it. I see it as a nice tool to have, but I don't see it as important as public transportation or something. It's not the answer-all and end-all to education, I'm sure. Mr. Sisson.
Mercer Sisson, Talmadge Township. I'm not going to address my specific comments about this particular proposal because I was unable to attend an earlier part of this session since I was at Penfield. However, I just want to take a few minutes at the last public opportunity to wish Lou Nyman well. I'd like to express the thanks of a technology-aware person within this district. Many people do not understand the impact that Mr. Nyman has brought to this district, even in his short tenure, and I want to wish him well. He will be sorely missed, and I would charge the board to move ahead as rapidly as possible. You will not be able to do anything in a decapitated fashion, so you really have to move forward very quickly to get someone back in that position with at least the level of Mr. Nyman. And if you find somebody at the same level, I want, for one, would be very happy. But I do want to wish Mr. Nyman well. This is his last public meeting, I think.
Thank you.
That he'll be here, and just encourage that wish him a good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sisson. That is very much appreciated. Mr. Taylor.
I'm Bill Taylor from Lansdale. I'd like to put something or highlight something from the back of your mind. As you look at the internet thing and you look at the whole aspect of computer art, it's like getting into it seems to me, getting into a high-speed car when you've been used to running a Model A. Model A is actually safer. You can't hit things as fast. If I walk into the news agency, I have a problem in terms of what magazines, what printed material can I believe, and what can't I believe. Now, probably the suits don't come because kids learn something which is not correct if it's not dirty. And I'd argue with you about whether the word dirty is right some other time. But I'm just saying, on the one side you have this problem of the earthy, the sexy, the adult, whatever you want to call it. But over here you have the problem of quality of information. And it is already difficult for teachers to even guess at how accurate the sources that their students are using are. It's the hardest possible problem probably in reading a theme. Because if somebody footnotes something, and you can't get your hands on it easily, and there's so much stuff on the internet that there's a lot you can't get to. You haven't got that much time. So this is another reason for putting a very long look at the internet. It's one thing to have it available at home. There are a lot of things available at home, at some homes. It's one thing to have it available for $1.25 a copy or $5 a copy or whatever it is in a bookstore or in a library where a teacher has a fair chance of running the thing down, but the internet is much more in transit. Well, that's the wrong word. Well, you know the word I'm trying to say. And that is an educational obligation which can very easily get lost. But I think it's probably much more important than the parts you're going to get sued for.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. By the way, Mr. Taylor, I'm so glad you started returning to these meetings. I missed you while you were gone.
Thank you.
Anybody else, please?
We don't know the answer.
Ladies and gentlemen, anybody else? Okay. Let's see, let me find my agenda. Help me with my agenda. Oh, no, we're not. Okay. All right. Dr. Cotter, ladies, we appreciate having you here tonight. Other related business is going into discussions on consultants. Mr. Nyman, we do need you. I think I mentioned that earlier. And this time we'd like to thank all of you for being with us tonight. And possibly be, we'll see where the board direction goes this evening, but possibly, Dr. Cotter, there'll be a need to have you on deck on the 14th. Okay?
Thank you all.
All right, thank you. Absolutely. Give a round of applause for these fine employees. Okay, members of the board, under other related business, it was made clear to me by Solicitor Bartle when I had talked to him about whether or not it was feasible, possible, or allowed to have an executive session on those resumes that were sent to you earlier this week. There is a need in the district, and I would appreciate if Mr. Nyman and Mr. Weir would address the need, the immediate need, for some hands-on technical help in the interim while we're interviewing or while we're going through the process of hiring for the open positions. Back to Solicitor Bartle, he said that because we are not looking to hire these people as employees of ours where they have benefits, they're on our payroll, but they're in effect subcontracted, it's a contracted service, it must be done in public. So, as you know, we have some recommendations through those resumes. I would really appreciate and respect each and every one of you if you would be careful not to use their names. If you do, that's your business. But it might be best if we didn't, that they be referred to by maybe a first name, a shortened first name, or even the amounts that were on those resumes. But, or as part, if that comes up in your discussion, or we need to discuss needs and consultants in general.
May I begin?
Surely.
I'd like to distribute to the board a packet with each sheet marked confidential. You have seen, delivered to your homes yesterday, 3 resumes. I received a 4th resume today. So I would like to give you a new packet with the same 3 that you have and a 4th, if you will. We'll distribute those to the board only. These are marked confidential because these are the resumes of consultants who may or may not be hired by the district at some future date. As Donna suggested, we might use the first name, or we might refer to them as A, B, C, D, or we could even refer to them by the hourly rate that the consulting firm would charge for their service. I think that Mr. Nyman, Mr. Weitz are probably ready and eager to talk with us about a variety of needs that we have. You know that with Mr. Nyman's departure on Friday, we are absent staff. You know that we are advertising for staff. We will continue to seek resumes and applications, and we will continue to advertise for staff. It could take us 2, 3, 4 weeks to hire the staff that we need to keep the district healthy and active in this area. We desperately need somebody in here on Thursday and Friday to overlap with Lou. We need somebody in here who is sufficiently knowledgeable and ready to learn what Lou can teach them and what documentation Lou can share with them on Thursday and Friday. My recommendation is that we would hire on beginning Thursday, that we would hire the first resume in the packet, refer to him as Jeff if you will, and the rate is $75 an hour. I think this is the person we need on Thursday and Friday to overlap with Lou. I think this gentleman makes the decision about what we need the following days, but we need to get him in here at least for a couple of days. Lou or David, perhaps you could explain why it needs to be Jeff rather than Brian or Jason.
My feeling is he's got a more senior approach to everything he's going to see. He's going to be a better planner. He's going to recognize problems the others may not recognize. He can chart how to manage and start solving problems that exist in the district and how to do day-to-day operations in the district. He can then look at the skills of the other two gentlemen at $65 and $50 and say what we're going to need. That also gives me the chance over Thursday and Friday to discuss those matters with him. We do have present needs to solve problems and maintain the stuff in the district. But he's got a more global look at that than the other two. I think he comes from more from a management perspective. The other two are much more hands-on. The $65 gentleman is more in the network realm, administrator realm, where the $50 gentleman is hands-on. I'll call him a desktop troubleshooter type, and he could be in the field helping us out in those regards. But I think
While you're commenting on those three, even though the board did not have the fourth resume until this evening, would you please make some comment about how often we might need Tony, who comes at a higher hourly rate?
There's a definite need for a person in the VMS field. That's what the VAX system, operating system is. That's what keeps the health of the district going. That's how you pay your payroll, and a number of large functions within the district reside on that machine. It does require week-by-week hand-holding, cleaning, and maintaining. At very minimum, I would say you're probably looking at half a day on weeks where we don't have payroll, and probably a full day on weeks where we do have payrolls. So I think you should chart. I mean, again, that's talking with Jeff and planning this all out, but you're going to need someone here when there are problems on the VAX itself, and it does require a fair amount of hand-holding.
While we're talking about these four resumes, we will continue to talk to other consulting groups. We have received proposals from other consulting groups. We will have conversations. I will have a conversation tomorrow with the president of a local consulting group. My secretary was able to reach him late this afternoon. I will talk with him tomorrow. That's a consulting group within the school district. We will learn whether they can be helpful, whether they can supply the kind of need that we have or not. At this point, I have no idea until I spend time with the gentleman, until Lou and I talk with the gentleman, whether they can be helpful. I'm suggesting that for the moment, these are the resumes that I think we should consider for our immediate need. I think we all need to be reminded that we have had 2 staff members absent, not receiving their salary, and that accumulates for us. As of Monday, we have Lou absent, not receiving his salary. So we have 3 staff members, effective Monday, 3 staff positions not being paid by the regular payroll, which does fortunately free up some funds for us to make available to contract as we need. I think we're all in agreement that we must find temporary help until we're able to complete our hiring, our interviewing and our hiring.
I'd like to piggyback on what Ken just said. I've been by myself for better than a month now, and as salary will accumulate that you can use to pay these individuals with, problems have also accumulated, and requests have accumulated for service in the field and in the schools. One person, and we've been able to pull in some part-time help from some other bodies in the district, such as Greg Cook in the bus garage, but we are barely treading water to keep our service at the point we would like to keep it at, and what we've achieved over the last year, our service levels. We are in sore need of this assistance, and Ken needs this assistance immediately.
From our existing staff, I can pull 1 daytime person and 2 part-time after-hours persons for part-time hourly work, evenings and Saturdays. That will continue. If they can't begin, with the limited hours that they're available, they can't begin to keep up with the need. David, did you want to comment about these resumes?
The only comment I really wanted to make right now is the urgency of at least getting one senior consultant in here with the expertise, as the resume labeled Jeff indicates, somebody familiar with almost all aspects of our current environment to overlap with Lou for at least a couple of days. I mean, tomorrow almost seems like a day, an opportunity missed to be able to tap into what he knows and what is coming, and be able to help us with some of our immediate needs. And that if that need is support, it will also be need in the buildings in a short period of time, and allow a senior consultant such as Jeff to come in and help us make the assessment of the level of staff that we might want to hire on a very short-term basis.
When I checked yesterday afternoon, Jeff would not be available on Wednesday. He could be made available on Thursday and Friday. He was committed to another organization through Wednesday.
Commissioner Nyman, is it correct that the consulting groups of this size, this firm, exactly what they do is provide a bench of consultants, technicians, players that are sent into companies on this temporary emergency needs basis?
At this level, I mean, this consulting group has many arms. One of those arms, as many consulting organizations have, they have a contract arm, which allows you to buy bodies of varying levels of expertise, as well as full-fledged consultant companies that come in and help you design networks and that kind of thing. That's one of the arms of this organization, and there are many of these organizations available.
All right, board questions to the left, Mr. Mosley.
Thank you, Madam President. When are we going to start the Panamation conversion?
Well, there's several answers to that. We have had an all-day planning meeting for the student side, including Bert Hines representing the high school, Gloria Marcello representing the middle schools, Tom Sugar representing the elementary principals, Marilyn Williams, the student accounting person here in the student services office. We had an all-day planning meeting for that student side with Panamation staff, which was perhaps the first step, if you will. We are scheduled to have a 2-day session on the financial side on October 9th and 10th, and the Panamation staff will be here to work with all the representatives of the financial side. Payroll, Carol Deddy, Kevin Heck, purchasing, all those users. That will be followed up by a 3rd day for the financial side. The computer must be ordered. The computer must be delivered to Panamation. All the software must be loaded and tested at Panamation. Our goal would be to have that computer delivered here and ready to use for training during the month of January.
Are we on
not
schedule?
Before January 1.
Are we on schedule?
I believe we're on schedule. I have not signed the contract with Panamation as yet.
Okay.
I believe we're on schedule.
Okay, so we're not looking for any of these consultants to help us with the Panamation conversion?
No, these consultants are to help us with our daily needs.
Okay.
Keep us operating.
All right. Are we going to have to make a time commitment? In other words, I personally would lean toward Jason, because I think at this point, with you leaving, Lou, I think we need a nuts and bolts person. I think we need someone to keep the computers we have and keep our systems up and running. I would like to leave, you know, some of the other decisions to, you know, to whomever we hire to replace you. I see Jeff as I don't see him as a nuts and bolts man. I see him strictly as a senior consultant to, you know, I don't know that he's going to be able to handle maybe some of the problems we have. I don't know what they are, but I'm sure that they come up every day, and with you leaving, I would rather get someone in here, if If we're going to get someone to hold down the fort, to get someone that's going to keep our schools running, our computers up and running, and keeping the finance department and so forth running at this point in time.
I think Lou would agree that I need 2 Jasons.
Yeah.
The question is, I do need 2 Jasons. The question is Jason enough? And I think our recommendation to get Jeff in for a couple days is to help with the analysis and tell us whether Jason is enough to keep us running. And what do we do when Jason isn't enough and I can't call Lou because he's out of town with his new employer? I mean, what do I do when Jason doesn't have the ability?
I don't see
Jeff as having that. He may be in a position where he's not going to want to go out and do the nuts and bolts stuff.
Maybe I can talk to him a little bit.
That's the concern I have. I mean, you guys going to come in as a senior consultant and say, oh, I don't.
He's going to say, call Jason.
Pay me, call Jason, pay me $75 an hour, but if you want the work done, you got to bring Jason in here.
Let me speak to that so you understand where we were coming from. We're not saying put Jeff on here for the next month.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Do we have to hire them for a certain period of time?
No.
As
Hire
needed.
them for 2 days?
Yeah.
As needed.
Okay.
That's what I meant by bench.
He thinks he can come in 2 days and assess what we need?
If he's the right person, I think within a couple of days of him sitting with me, he'll understand what's going on here. And I think the problem is there are levels of expertise that are needed in this district. Jason will not solve the major problems in this district. He will not be able to maintain the networks in this district.
I don't see Jeff as being the guy that's going to be.
I'm not telling you Jeff is, but Jeff may say that the other gentleman should be here.
I see.
I think you need levels of people. You can't put a nuts and bolts guy out here and give him a grocery list of things to do and expect anything to get done. That does not happen.
Lou predicted this afternoon during our discussion of this that after a couple days, Jeff may very well recommend that Brian is what we need.
And that's what I expect would happen. And Jason will walk after a couple of days.
Jeff would walk and recommend that we should continue with Brian.
You can't do this with one type of person. That's not going to make it. You currently, the list grows every day. The numbers would stagger you if you know how many voicemails I get a day.
Well, the log of house calls, if you will, or calls to other schools, is the record of what the needs are.
It's quite significant. And it runs from the very minor problem to a very complex problem. A lab in a middle school not functioning, which is not something that someone like Jason is going to fix.
But someone like Jeff can.
Someone like Brian probably can.
Okay.
That's why you keep going back to Jeff. Jeff is here to get a handle on what there is to do and suggest to us what are the skill sets we need to do it. Not to sit here and collect $75 an hour doing nothing. That's not the idea.
Okay, so you're saying that in possibly 2 or 3 days, well, we're going to have 2 days probably, Thursday and Friday.
He'll have a good handle on what we should do.
Okay. Right.
Minimally, he needs 2 days to overlap with Lou. And Lou turns over whatever documentation, whatever he can, to this knowledgeable person who says, you don't need me, you need Brian, or you need Brian and Jason, or this is what you need.
Or you need two Jasons, this much time. And
This sounds like a remake of Abbott and Costello.
Yeah.
This is really.
Yeah.
Let's hope that it isn't.
To protect these poor fellas' privacy at the same time
No, we
trying their
have
business
to.
done.
But we have to. I would not have a problem with bringing Jeff in for 2 days if that's what he's going to do. The only thing I would caution is that I'm familiar with the company, and I don't want to bring personalities into it, but again, they are in the business of consulting. And I would just like to be cautious as to, where we go from here. I mean, if the point is to bring in Jeff for 2 days and to have him do an analysis, but, if he recommends both these gentlemen or whatever, we're going to have to look at that.
I would suggest to you, when you make the comment about consulting firms, that's any consulting firm. They're here to make money.
I work for a consulting firm too, so I know.
They're here to make money.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But they also have us in a vulnerable position too, because you're leaving and they know it's a critical situation. And sometimes people can take advantage of that.
Oh, that's
Okay? I'm not
true.
accusing them of that, but I know how the business world works, okay?
So your
I would have
your
no
preference
problem.
and your direction
I
would
would
be
have
what?
no problem with bringing Jeff in for 2 days, but my question would be then, how do we vote on his recommendations? We just give Ken carte blanche to do what he wants to do, or do we have to have another meeting and vote on it, or just, what do we do at that point in time?
On another subject, we would hire consultant help on an emergency basis without talking with you about it. But technology has become a topic among us and a concern among us. If we had an urgent need for a consultant in some other area, we would just do it. That would be what our responsibility would.
And I understand that, Ken.
We're aware that we cannot proceed in the area of technology
Right.
with just doing it.
No, I understand. What I'm saying is Jeff comes in, we have 2 days of his services, okay? And then maybe he recommends, as Lou has suggested, that we bring in Brian as well as Jason. We just automatically do that without board approval, or we ratify it later?
It's
or-
ratified
What's the-
later, but I think that what we do is keep, because we're in a serious situation, that Ken should keep certainly me apprised, and there needs to be a phone chain of making sure all
Okay.
board members know where we're at every day.
Yeah, I mean, I realize the gravity of the situation.
Meanwhile, what's happening simultaneously is the hiring process.
Right.
The advertising's out, there'll be pending interviews, and getting positions filled in the district that are permanent.
Well, I will agree to Jeff coming in for 2 days to be brought up to date with Lou, but as far as, a decision goes on bringing any personnel forward, that's something that we're going to have to establish through a phone chain or something.
Well, clearly I need someone on Monday. If
I know.
If
I
Jeff
understand.
comes,
I
if Jeff
understand.
comes for 2 days.
Right.
I need someone on Monday.
That's
And
exactly
Tuesday
right.
and Wednesday and Thursday.
I agree.
For
To
2
be the
weeks.
worker.
I agree.
To be the worker.
I agree. I don't have a problem with that. We need a worker.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I do see some overlap in both their qualifications.
How
And
do
to
we-
me, looking at Jason, he looks to me like the guy, it's a nuts and bolts guy that really does the work.
Well, I'm surely,
And I think that's what we're going to basically need.
I'm surely willing to say we need Jason starting Monday morning. And
I
we
wouldn't
need
have a
him,
problem.
and we need him for a couple of weeks.
I don't have a problem with that.
Because I need to have somebody that I can count on. I need a Jason for a couple of weeks, starting Monday, if you will.
Then why don't we just do it that way? Let's bring Jeff in for 2 days, for his appraisal, but also with the proviso that Jason starts Monday.
Well, what we need tonight is direction.
Well, that's my
Miss-
direction.
Mr. Mezza, that is clear, and I appreciate
That's
that.
my
But let me get
direction.
around, let's see what everybody else would wish. Mrs. Krieger.
Okay, I don't know, I guess I really don't know where to start on this particular thing. But I'll give it a shot. First of all, I've sat here many times when the big bad word consultant was brought up in the area of technology months and months ago, over a year ago, for different things relating to technology, and was either ignored, poo-pooed, whatever, never looked at. Now we find ourselves in an emergency situation, and as Pat has pointed out, with one consulting group before us with a bevy of candidates to come in and help us out in our crunch here. However, I look through these resumes and there's not one person who's being recommended here that has any previous experience with working in particular with school districts in and around the area or in and around the state. The fax cover sheet letter that's attached here makes reference to tasks that were discussed, that there should be a 2-day assessment of the VAX and VMS environment, summarized by a written document describing the environment, including hardware and software inventory, configuration, procedures, and recommended improvements. Didn't we already do that? when we purchased the new Penimation software? It doesn't sound like these guys are coming in to play, Lone Rangers while we're out there searching.
We have to keep the precedent. I'm sorry, I interrupted you, I'm sorry.
Well, no, I mean, it just sounds like they're coming in under one premise, and I'm operating under quite another.
Their resumes are describing their past experiences and why their past experiences are relevant to the immediate needs that we have, such as system management for the VACs. The resumes describe people that can walk in the door, someone gives them the system account name and a password, and they sit there and say, I know what this machine is doing today. Someone can describe a problem to me and I will solve it. This is all speaking to their relevant experience in being able to walk in the door and help us with the system administration on the VACs, as well as system administration on all of these other gentlemen, in terms of being able to walk into any of our buildings, look at a Novell network that is not functioning and say, I know how to fix this today, we will get this lab up and running, we will get this library up and running. This is their experience. This is why you look at this and say they can do all of these things. Every one of them has hands-on experience. You don't declare yourself a senior consultant with having done the hands-on experience and being able to direct others in their tasks. And what this firm did, I believe, was take the job descriptions that we provided to them that we're currently advertising and says, here are 3 people that can fill those positions today, that for the next 2 to 3 weeks while you're hiring, these people can fill those job functions so that you have a full complement on your staff to meet the needs of the school district. The analysis, I mean, it's a poor choice of words to say that 2 days with Lou is an analysis of the situation. Really what it is the best chance we have of Lou talking about the time frames for our data processing needs. Payroll comes up on Thursday. This is what's going to happen. Report cards follow after this. This is what's going to happen. Someone has to sit here and understand what the tasks that this staff would normally do are going to occur in the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. This is a short-term solution until we can find staff, but we need a full complement of staff. Instead of talking about one, we should be looking at all of these to completely staff this district as we've already approved that we should do for the next 3 weeks until we can hire people to replace the consultants and do a normal job for us.
Wait a minute, we approved what?
We have 3 full-time positions approved in our budget.
Okay.
We have no people to do those functions for us.
These 3
What we're looking at is people that can fill. Absolutely. I mean,
That's what Ken said
the
in his
consultant
memo
named
to us.
Jeff is an equivalent experience level to Lou, followed by the next one down the line as our system administrator, and another employee that left, followed another person that's a technician level. I mean, these people were hand-picked based on our job description and said, these are the best people we have available to help you create a full complement of North Penn School District support and service. That's what they're here for.
Okay, but what they're saying to us here.
Which one are you looking at
I'm
specifically?
looking at the fax cover sheet that came
today's-
yesterday.
Today with Tony's. You're
Is it
reading?
the 22nd or the 23rd?
Aren't you reading from the fact sheet what came
Yeah,
with
it
Tony's?
says September 22nd.
Well, he wrote it last night and sent it today.
Okay. It says here that what has worked well in the past for them when they've come into situations like this, I'm assuming, is that they do a 2-day assessment of the VAX and VMS environment, summarized by a written document describing the environment, including hardware and software inventory, configuration, procedures, and recommended improvements. From there, support requirements are defined, which typically range from a minimum half-day every 2 weeks to 1 day per week.
Well, for this particular person, if you will note...
But they need to do, that comes out of the 2-day assessment, right?
If you will note, for this particular person, this person is a specialist in VAX VMS.
For payroll.
This is VAX VMS. This person, I mean, I would not hire this person on a long-term basis to operate my machines. But to assess the situation and bring in a much junior person, probably at half that rate, I would want somebody to clearly understand what the tasks at hand were, what the responsibilities were, and what is the best person to meet those needs.
So this is the only person that would be doing that?
He would make the assessment. I mean, at that
Nobody
rate, I
else?
have to believe he's the top senior consultant they may have
So if we
at that
pick-
level for VAX, just the VAX environment.
But
Okay,
that's
so if
different
we
from
pick-
the two-day
That's
assessment that
different.
Jeff would give us.
I wish we'd get away from that term assessment. Someone has to be here with Lou to understand what's going to happen for the next 3 weeks. Call it an assessment if you will, but we need a schedule of what's going to happen to understand what the consultants have to support, as well as the day-to-day calls from all
That's
the
why we would
buildings.
be assessing, David, through Lou.
I don't think you understand.
You can call it an assessment. A two-day working relationship outlines what's going to happen in the district. You can call it an assessment if you want. That's a different person. We're talking about our Novell networks, the workstations in our laboratories and in our libraries. Separate tasks, separate people. The issue of the VAX was the resume we received today to understand what our environment looks like. What are the tasks? What are the skills necessary? Give us an assessment. Tell us what it is in writing, something we can look at and debate with other consultants, and then bring the right person in to operate our VAXs so we can work with our student databases and our financial databases. These are specialized people with specialized skills as we have gone out and we're advertising for. One person can't possibly do all of this. We need multiple people to meet multiple needs, and we have a real problem if we don't meet that need during the course of the next 3 to 4 weeks. We have no one here to do any of this, and one person can't possibly do it all.
I have to say this, the 3 people running this district, the way we have been doing, is a stretch, a real stretch. We barely keep our head above water. We barely keep classrooms operating. There are times, and this is no joke, there are 6 to 7 workstations in the lab that are not working. That's not unusual. That is more the way we operate. It is not unusual to have a VAX problem that we have to hunt for files to restore and get things back up and running again. That is not unusual. The district is surviving, but in a very bad way. You gotta have staff in here now.
Okay,
You
but
cannot wait.
Wait a minute, just a second. With the recent purchase of the upgrades to Penimation, there was discussion and debate about improving the VAX system.
But this has nothing to do with the purchase of Penimation.
No, but
Penimation,
correct me if I'm wrong, with that approval, aren't we getting an upgrade to the VAX?
No, we are
We're not.
going to maintain the present VAX.
A new one.
We're getting a new one? We're
We're
getting a new one.
Not, we're not getting a new VAX.
We're getting a new
We are
computer.
abandoning the VAX environment.
But we
VAX
must
is going
keep
out.
all of this working at least until next October, a year from now, because we will keep the current budget through the end of the budget year, and until the current budget year is closed out on the present system. And in January and February, we will begin to put the new budget information for the new year on the new system. And we will, between January and October, have 2 systems to maintain,
Run in parallel.
running them in parallel. That's just speaking about budget and financial. And then there are all the other functions. We will continue to have food service, we will continue to have the census, we will continue to have all kinds of activity on the present system until we have fully migrated and checked out and are confident that everything is fine with the new system. We hope that we will begin the new school year totally on the new system for the student accounting side, the new school year being next September, on the new, on the student attendance side and schedules and everything related to that. But we have to maintain this environment and all of these functions while in January we begin to train staff and orient staff for the new Penimation series.
You're not talking about keeping these people on that period.
These people, I
should have
think
news.
we need for a 3 to 4 week period. It
Until
may
we
go
hire
longer.
staff.
You're not talking about till next
No,
October.
we're talking about these people are here to meet a need until we hire our staff and have a full complement back on board.
We have to keep the need for these guys separate from the Penimation decision that you made.
You cannot go without staff. You cannot go without staff.
We know that.
Bruce, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I mean, I'm well, obviously, we have to bring in some help here. But I would like some parameters put on this as far as an agreement, with the consulting group, be it through, whatever means necessary. I'd like Jeff to come in first and have that time to assess with Lou, or whatever you wanna call it, David, outline what he needs to do and what he thinks, however other many people he thinks he needs to have come in and help him out.
Think of him as Lou's equivalent in
Okay.
terms of supervisory, management skills, planning things. This was the person that's going to come in first. It's as if we hired that next person that we're looking for and he was on board. If Lou was going to be here for the next 2 days and we had somebody on board, we'd have them working together to understand how to make the transition.
Okay. Having said that, I would like some type of initial documentation of, you know, what he thinks is going to be required per week by the 3 people. If it's 3 people, if it's 2 people, if it's all 4. But I'd like kind of a breakdown of the total number of hours per week that we can expect. I think that'll help us off in the future too.
Sharice, just as a thought, with the VAX person, and I'm not saying this person whose resume is the person that would show up when we need, it could be difficult to estimate. A person like that may only have to come in 3 half-days a week. Assuming things are running, they run, and they don't need attention every day of the week. There are times when you'd want them here for a half-day or a full day, so it might be difficult to assess that. I doubt seriously if it would be this senior consultant, this level, that would actually do the hands-on work. This person would come in and make the assessment. Some of those estimates may be difficult because these people, well, at some level, we're going to have somebody here all the time, 8 hours a day, whatever it is, 5 days a week. Others could come and go. They would not be here like that. And so it's a difficult.
I would rather, for some of those cases where we have an emergency that comes up, or if we have somebody that is on our payroll that is capable of helping us out in that particular situation, I would rather utilize our own personnel for those kind of service.
And that's how we've been getting
things.
by to this point.
I know that,
Yeah.
but I don't want to replace that at this particular time with a consulting firm doing that instead. I don't want it to be used, you know, as an instead of, and then when they go away, then we call upon these people again to help us out. You know, I'd kind of like a ballpark figure from, either from, I guess it would come from you, Ken, after analyzing what Jeff comes up with after 2 days here.
I will need to know my authorization procedure. I talk with the superintendent, and where do he and I go with an authorization procedure? That's what we will have to be clear about in the coming days, because there are days when the entire chain is not accessible. There are days when you can't be brought together for consensus or for discussion. And Bud and I will need to know whether Donna is empowered to give us a green light, or whether 2 of you are empowered or 3 of you are empowered. But how does this board intend to allow us to keep this thing operating between our meetings? That's really where we are, so that we're not violating any trust that you have or ignoring your wishes. Surely we will take full advantage of the staff that we have, because our staff is willing to work overtime for less than these rates. And we will take advantage of our staff and use them according to their availability. But as we leave here tonight, we need to be sure what the authorization process is, because by midweek, I'll be needing that, if not before.
You'll need
Are
that
there any
Monday.
policy issues that govern,
No, we can hire,
or administrative regs that govern,
we can,
us?
I'm sorry.
Isn't there something that governs our need to have to go out for bids?
No, we
like
can
the
hire,
whole
we
thing
can
is-
hire consultant help as needed.
Okay. Because
You
we
require
already
us-
have one consulting situation going on, which I have no idea what the end result of that is gonna be cost-wise. I don't wanna get into another situation like that.
These people
That's my
are,
whole point.
these people come in and they're billed at the hour, which is why that rate is there. You don't have to make a long-term commitment.
We have an hourly rate with the implementation,
Yeah,
and that's an open-ended situation.
That's potentially.
We need staff as soon as possible. We all know that. I would be happy if I could deliver you a 3 or 4 person staff immediately and not need these folks at all. That's our goal. But that's not.
And you keep us posted how that's going.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think the other thing too here is that, and Lou has mentioned before, we do have kind of a bastardized system. It's been changed and rewritten, and there's no documentation. That's why I feel it's important that he does meet with you for at least 2 days to determine. But the concern I have is he could say the situation's a lot worse and I gotta bring 5 or 6 people in here. Then, that's my fear.
the clarification on that, they were talking about the customization of the animation software only. I mean, we do have a VAX environment, we do have a Novell environment, we do have Windows workstations. None of those things have been modified outside. These people should be able to handle all of those standard operating systems without
Let's hope,
problems.
because I know that they don't have a lot of experience with school districts.
I think you'd see from any consulting firm that walked in here for whatever job you proposed, would assess the situation that the staff, even as it was in September and August, was not adequate. Just wasn't adequate.
Let me come around here. Mr. Allen?
Hopefully real quick. I can't tell you whether Jeff is better than Brian, is better than Jason. That's your job. Hire the man that you need to do the job. Get the right people in. Secondly, your charge is to keep the computers of this school district working. And if you have to hire Jeffrey and Jason, you have my authorization to do it. Please don't waste a phone call on me to get a second person in here to do it. We have to keep the machines running. I had a third, I forget what it is, so take it away, Don.
Well, I think you said it. I said, we got to do what we got to do. And the only thing, and you got to bring the consultant for the 2 days and bring the staff in that you need to keep it running. Only thing we ask is that you just fill us in weekly or on a periodic basis where we are and where we're going, what you had to do.
Thank you.
Mr. Weitz?
I have no questions.
Okay, what I would appreciate then is, it looks like 2 days, the consultation with you over the next 2 days looks like the direction the full board would wish to go in. Secretary Greer, I would need from you then a report on the results and the recommendations that came out of that meeting between the two of you and Mr. Weir. From that point then, as opposed to just tossing this to the technology committee, which involves 4 men, we need to streamline this. I will take whatever comes from that group, and then I will make the personal phone calls. Are you serious about no calls?
We don't need to, I don't need to call in.
I'm not on it, but
Just
if
fill
you
me
need
in
a
what's
person to do
happening.
the job, we have authorized 3 people to work in this department. We're gonna have 0 starting Monday.
Okay,
You've got to take care of it.
I don't want anybody feeling they're cut out of the loop. Maybe I'm being over precautious, but at the same
I
time,
understand.
it's
I understand.
stewardship of assets.
Well, don't
I'm not
exact-
having a problem with it.
There's also a responsibility to keep the place running.
Under stewardship is what I'm speaking of. Okay, when I get this, I will call and keep you all informed as to what is necessary, what
If
is
you can't
needed,
get
and
us,
that
you
written
make a
document
decision.
would go out to the board members.
If you can't get us, you make a decision.
Just to piggyback again on tonight's discussion earlier. The next step is what? To wait until the second phase for IMC upgrades comes up? What are we doing?
Oh, you mean on the list? Not on this, you mean on,
Yeah, I'm done with that. I'm
Next
going
work
back to the
session,
other
we'll
thing.
discuss it some more, I thought.
yeah, I would expect this to come back up under
We have to go-
October 14th.
Well, if I may clarify, I would expect that we would not need to bring the librarians back to the
Correct.
next meeting.
No,
Correct.
no.
They've made their presentation.
Right.
I think we should bring forth a recommendation to you for implementation, for your discussion, for your reaction, and a plan for moving forward. And we need to do that on the 14th of October, which means
You need to get your financials in place then. You have to check into that government subsidy that I requested, because that's money that we're entitled to and we can get.
That hasn't been implemented yet. That is part of the Telecommunications Act, but those
There's
refunds,
$53 million.
they will come to districts as discounts for telecommunications charges. Currently, we don't have those kinds of telecommunications charges because we don't have.
But it's stated in the article that it will assist in purchasing equipment and lines for IMCs. It's very specific states.
When connected to the outside world.
When put in.
No.
Yes, it is about the telecommunications discounts from telephone companies and internet service
I will
providers.
read back again, but it wasn't strictly in there.
If you have,
I assure you, as soon as I get any notice from the federal government or the state government, I will copy you all.
Yeah.
Because we're all hearing different things.
Yeah, because they said that the applications would be available in September, and now September is gone, and I know you haven't gotten it. Yeah,
anything.
Nobody's gotten anything.
Could I say something?
if you have a particular article that I need to read, I'd appreciate it.
No problem.
I'd like to make a public,
Farewell
my
speech.
appreciation for Ken Weir and his assistance over the last year and a half that I've been here. I deeply appreciate everything he's done for me, and I wish this district the very, very best. I really do. You have a long way to go. I would wholeheartedly tell you to dive into that library situation and get it moving. It's the first time I can actually say that I think that we're affecting the kids the way that I wanted to when I came here, and I'd like to see that come off. And thank you very much.
Good luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
You all right?
German?
No, I'm just, I don't know, I'm sorry. I'm lost. I don't know where we're going from here. I don't know what we're coming back in October to decide. I mean, because I have some significant issues with some of the things that were said tonight.
That's what, it'll be back on the work session again?
Yes.
Because we have, what, two, and then we have one leave early, 3 board members missing. It has to come back to a work session again. This was the first presentation. I anticipate more discussion. This was a slim night in the audience. I'm sure there's going to be more audience members next time. So it's going to be on the work session agenda. I'm hoping, though, that that meeting will get us to a point where, regardless how long it takes, things get hammered out, and there may be something, in fact, that could be placed on the action agenda for October.
I would just say, Ms. Mingle, considering we're gonna do the work in-house and the work that has to be done in the lead time to buy cable and equipment and so forth, it's gonna be easier to get the hardware than it is to have it running. And the worst thing we can have are workstations and hardware, and because of not enough lead time, they're not powered up.
Right.
On the other
So
hand,
you guys have to go
we
first.
need staff before we can rush into this.
Yes.
We need staff.
Right. Yeah, we do need to be.
Mr. Square, you feel better?
No, but that's all right, I'll get over it.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.